Yeah, I got money on my phone and money on me. I got all these hoes, but still lonely. They been blowing on that strong, but still so weak. I've been higher than a drone, but still low-key. We been sitting on the floor, they in the nosebleeds. Lately I've been in control, they can't control me. Yeah, they about to get exposed for being so cheap. I've been sticking to the code and I ain't gon' cheat. Yo, grew my hair and took the grill out. Think it's time to put it back in. Trying to get into that big house, turn the crib into the mansion. Needed something with that big bounce. You know I had to hit Jackson. Aaron Rodgers with the quick routes. I'm with the gang, we packing. We on the field at Lambo. Might peel in a Lambo. Running drills in my camo. They know what the M stand for. Still got fam in Hawaii, yeah. Couple fans in the lobby, yeah. Couple grand in my pocket, yeah. Couple grams of wasabi, yeah. Eye it up, no glasses. Light it up, no matches. Wife it up, no ratchets. Might turn my wife to an actress. And we gon' make a movie, no Kim K. Give a fuck about what your friends say. I got money on my phone and money on me. I got all these hoes, but still lonely. They been blowing on that strong, but still so weak. I've been higher than a drone, but still low-key. We been sitting on the floor, they in the nosebleeds. Lately I've been in control, they can't control me. Yeah, they about to get exposed for being so cheap. I've been sticking to the code and I ain't gon' cheat.
I'm just sticking to the code, I keep it so G. She asked me what I smoke, I'm smoking OG. I don't fuck with too many, only catch me 4 deep. Gotta stay away from snakes, swear these people so creep. I've been grinding for a minute, many labels so sleep. These rappers drop a song, be hot for about a week. I put Gucci on my toes, I keep some cold feet. I ain't paying for no hoe, you niggas know me. I'm about to body the beat. I keep me a hottie with me. She wanna for a fee. Give me that for free. Keep me some money on me. Smoking the gas, keep. You with me, sheesh. But need OG keep.
I got money on my phone and money on me. I got all these hoes, but still lonely. They been blowing on that strong, but still so weak. I've been higher than a drone, but still low-key. We been sitting on the floor, they in the nosebleeds. Lately I've been in control, they can't control me. Yeah, they about to get exposed for being so cheap. I've been sticking to the code and I ain't gon' cheat.
Hop in the car, watch it go vroom, vroom. I told her mom that I blow soon, soon. Knew as a child, back in the womb. Oh, told her step back, I need my broom, vroom. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom. I'm in a whip, so I gotta zoom. They tryna talk, they not in a room. I've been so real, I'm that to the tomb. They in the way, they gotta move. I got a gas, they running on fumes. Told them way back, it's something new. It's me and Dan, you gotta choose. I'm taking what's mine, I'm doing fine. Don't see the vision, they looking so blind. I hit my lawyer, don't got the time. Crossing my T's and he dotting those eyes. Don't take offense if I do not oblige. I can't belabor like none of these guys. They hit me once and I'm cutting the ties. I was so low, but I'm back on the rise, it's real. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom, vroom. I told her mom that I blow soon, soon. Knew as a child, back in the womb. Oh, told her step back, I need my broom, vroom. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom. I'm hopping now I gotta go. I'm looking back, they not even close. I had a 4, now I need a ghost. I got a wave like I'm on the coast. Same ones are down and I dare the show. So way that I'm ballin', they think I'm a pro. I'm getting sick by the money I gross. They saying whoa, I told them all what this is. I told them all I don't miss. Said it's my time, look at this shit on my wrist. And when they shootin' this breaks, I'm going in a new gig, gotta shift. I cannot stick to the script, I cannot wait. Watch how I get it and flip. It's just how I'm doing this shit and I'm gone. Just how I'm doing this shit and I'm gone. Hey, just how I'm doing this shit and I'm gone.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide.
Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like, yeah, you about to see me on demand like, you know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go. On the road, here we go, here we go.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Frankie Candles live stream every single weekday right here at 5:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mafia, good Lord. We are approaching our final. I don't want to make it too scary. We're approaching our very, very key level of support, which, as you guys know, we have been looking at for quite some time. It does sit in the $108,000 to $107,000 area. This is not a level that we want to lose, guys. I'm going to break down all the key levels for you. We're going to take a look at the higher time frames and anticipate if we are likely to see a bigger continuation to the downside and what is going to happen if we lose that last level of support that we've been looking at. Is it the bear market? Are we going to zero? What is coming next? I'm going to break it down all on today's live stream, guys, as we are getting very close to that $108,000 level. We're actually hitting right now one of our upper key levels of support, but it is not as big as that $108,000 to $107,000 zone. So we're going to break it all down for you guys. I'm going to give you my exact plan here and what I'm expecting next for price action on Bitcoin. So shout out to the CandleMafia. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you guys for being in the chat. And I could feel it, guys. I could feel it. Panda Profit said he's breaking out the McDonald's application. It's back to working fast food, guys. But shout out to Multi-Sig Dummy in the chat. What is going on, brother? Welcome in. We got Jack in the chat. What is up? Let's see. We got Jesse, our like police, in the chat. Guys, smash that like button if you have not already. We're going to be giving away some nice stuff on Friday if we get 1,000 likes on tonight's live stream. So smash it up. Shout out to New Earth Guardian. Said shorts are short shorts and short bots printing, fam. I told Jesse this morning I'm short. Shout out to New Earth. But yeah, we're going to take a look here. God, man. Guys, I cannot express how important this next key level of support if we do have to come down and tap it, which it does look somewhat likely here. I want to talk about kind of what happens if we lose that level. How low can we go? Is it the bear market? Is the top end at 120, call it 124,600? Is the top end? Are we going into the bear market? What the heck is going to happen next here? I'm gonna break it all down for you guys tonight. The bull run hasn't even started. Shout out to Help. We'll take a look at that. I'll give you guys my full thoughts on that. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see if we get this level tap, guys. It is coming up very, very quickly. So shout out to you guys. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you guys. My shorts are on fire. It's hot. Shout out to Paul. Never mind. Shout out to Paul. But guys, without further ado, we got a lot to look at here on the charts. So let's go ahead and jump on into the charts. Here we go. All right, guys. So here we are. as we have gotten this continuation of the downside. Now, obviously, guys, this did start with our fake out of the all-time high here at about, or topping out at about $124,600. And finally, guys, I did hit the final take profit on this short position, which was not hilariously enough, but was to come down and take out about $111,000. I have now closed that position in full, writing it down from about 122.7, I think was about my entry, and then wrote it all the way down here to 111K. And I have taken I've taken out of that position completely, as I really didn't have too much left in that position. And after we got that last drop over the weekend, I did close it in full. This was my technical target, and unfortunately, guys, we are losing this level. And as you know, this 108,000 daily MPOC has been a very, very, very big level we've been looking at to potentially come down and tap, right? If I pull up our lower range here that we've been looking at, not this one, we got lower range number 2. We did have this zone right here sitting between that daily MPOC I just brought up at 111,000 all the way down here to about $110,000, which is the value area high of our range. Now, don't get it twisted, guys. This is technically support, right? So is it possible to potentially, reclaim support here and get a bounce to the upside? Maybe. But as we've been talking about, guys, we are really approaching that kind of really big, the biggest level on the chart, in my opinion, at least as of right now, which is sitting here at the daily MPOC, starting at about $108,681, running all the way down here to this anchored VWAP sitting at about 107K. This has been this big zone that we've been looking at for quite some time. And as we have had, let me take some of this stuff off the chart, as we have had money flow coming out on time frames such as the 4-hour. You can see that money flow cruising to the downside here. This is what gave us that anticipation of the lower highs and lower lows to come. We got some local bounces in here, but money flow continuing to come to the downside makes it more likely to see that continuation down. And it honestly all started here. I'm not going to cover this for very long just because I covered it all the time. This macro 786 Fibonacci retracement, guys, once we close that weekly candle below that golden pocket 786, which gives us a very high probability lower high area. So once we faked out that all-time high, we say to ourselves, well, hey, this fib is pulled from the high to the low. So you have your high, your low, your lower high, which does indicate a potential break of structure to the downside, cracking this low down here at about 111,865. And here we are. Now, obviously, we have cracked that low earlier, right? We cracked this low last week, but it was not really a full break, right? We had a little SFP, which was very nice to see a little bit of a bounce to the upside. But when you look at that money flow, the continuation down is much more likely, where we have these bigger levels on the chart, which was the initial big levels of support that we have been looking at before when we were looking for that push to the downside. We have the value area high daily MPOC sitting here between about 111 and 110K, and then down here between 108 and 107K. And this golden pocket, guys, is the level that I would really, 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 really prefer to hold if we want to see another big move to the upside, because as you guys know, once we get below this golden pocket, I'm going to show you kind of a different context today. But as you guys know, right, like losing this golden pocket, not only are you losing the golden pocket, you're losing the macro anchored VWAP from the low here at about $75,000, which is absolutely huge to continue our major uptrend here. So, again, I will be looking for long positions down here in the premium Discord for potential bounces, but we do have to be careful here, guys, because if that money flow on the bounce continues to the downside, it might indicate the bigger breakdown here. And once we lose this level, guys, we are getting accepted into below major resistance, which could indicate a much bigger drop down towards that $97,000 POC that we have here on the macro volume profile. As you guys know, like one of the reasons why that $8,000, $107,000 level is so important is because if we are unable to hold this, guys, we are eventually maybe going to get stuck underneath this value area high, which would indicate a much bigger drop down towards 97K. And then potentially if we lose that, we can look down towards about $90,000. And I will pull this up in a little bit of a different context. We can extend this profile a little bit. I'm going to show you guys that new range in just a minute. And it gives us perfect confluence on this golden pocket. It just shows you how important this level is. And again, it's not just the golden pocket. It's also the value area high I'm about to show you. It's also the anchored VWAP from the low at 75K. Major support here. And yes, there is a possibility to bounce off the 786, but to be quite honest with you, I am going to say it right now. I think the bigger level here is the golden pocket. If we have to come down and we bounce off that 786, again, we'll deal with this, as we always say, if and when we have to. But I really would prefer to hold this golden pocket because of all the confluence we have there. And we would not have to deal with the possibility of getting accepted into this range, which obviously would call for the much bigger drop to the downside. I already see people talking about the CME gap down here in the low 90s. It's not a guarantee that it has to fill, but, you know, when I show you this context, it would make a lot of sense for it to fill. Would this indicate the bear market? I'm going to give you guys, like, kind of my overall thought process on that. We've covered these levels many a times here. Let me see if I can... Let me see if I can pull this up. Where is it? Obviously, we've shown these levels many a times, right? You know, you have the first pocket, the second pocket, and then that last level here where that 786 is sitting. But again, I'm really going to put the bigger level here at that golden pocket because, again, once you start losing that golden pocket, it's like, well, hey, now we're getting accepted into the macro range, which again sits right here, which would indicate, you know, potential acceptance and a much bigger drop to the downside. I'm going to show you a little bit of a cleaner context here in just a minute. Shout out to Lord Bra saying smash that like button if you guys have not already. But unfortunately, guys, here we are approaching these lower levels. But yeah, you know, I'm going to bring up some local levels as well. But for the most part, right, I mean, we're live dumping here, so I will just kind of cover the, you know, more of the local levels. And we are pretty much sitting here. And, you know, on top of this, guys, we also do have this daily money flow looking to creep towards the downside here. We do not want this to cross over into the red. Why is that? Well, this would indicate, right, if we do come down to that $108,000 zone, we do get the bounces to the upside. If this daily money flow is crossing over into the red, well, what would that indicate? It would indicate a continuation to the downside, looking for lower highs and lower lows to come, which eventually could get us accepted inside this macro volume profile. And I would say this is, you know, the worst case scenario I would be looking at least as of right now, right? If we don't hold this value area low, things could potentially be getting much, much, much more bearish. So yeah, I mean, we're here, guys. We're here. We're already tapping into that first key level, lower volume profile too, right? We're already kind of like trying to play around with this level, which is also, by the way, a volume profile, right? So, you know, the goal here, right, just to show this, right, you have your, let me turn off the macro profile, right? So you have your local profile here as well. You know, I would say right now, locally, a very, very key level to get above is going to be this value area high. And you can see we are already starting to bearishly retest this, which could potentially get us acceptance. Whoops, let me get rid of that line. Could get us acceptance in here, which would make that next target the golden pocket, which is the $108,000 to $107,000 zone, which is also confluent with the POC of this range, right? Get accepted below the low, get accepted below the value area high. Next likely place for price to go is probably going to be that POC, which does fall right in that confluent area of support. And I will say it once again, guys. We've been saying it all last week, the week before, forever. This is the level, guys. We must bounce here, in my own personal opinion. Yes, you could look for longs here, potentially on the 786 value area low. But again, from a higher time frame context, I'm going to bring up this new volume profile that I'm looking at. We have the macro volume profile pulled from all the way back here in December 2024. Now, we can actually extend this profile a little bit. And the reason for that is because you're still technically in your area of balance here. And if we go ahead and extend this all the way to right before we got the breakout, you can see it does move the value area high up very slightly into a very, very interesting level. And I actually have this range redrawn to the current price action, which is sitting right here. And you can see, you start to see all this macro confluence, right? Macro value area high sitting at $108,354. And then if I pull that same golden pocket that we've been talking about from the low all the way to the high here, you can see the beautiful confluence here. This is a massive level, guys, not just based off the context I showed you before, but also this major context as well. You know, we really, I don't mind coming down here and pushing a little deeper into this structure, but we do not want to lose this golden pocket because the next stop for price, guys, is going to be that 786 sitting at 103,667. 103,826, almost 104K. And yes, this isn't, you might say to yourself, well, Frankie, if you're looking at the market structure here based off the Fibonacci retracements, it's like, well, you could have a low, a high, a higher low, a potential higher high. Can't we bounce off the 786 as well? Well, yes, but we've covered this many a times. At that point, right, if you bounce off the 786, you got to be really, 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 really careful because if you get stuck inside this value area, it opens the door down towards that 97K POC, which in this profile sits at about 96,692. And then at that point, right, well, what's the final target once you get accepted above this, below this value area high? Well, next likely place for price to go is the POC, and after that, the final target is sitting down here at the value area low, sitting at almost exactly $92,000, where we do have the CME gap sitting. And, you know, the question might be there, like, well, is that the bear market? And I cover this so many times, guys. You know, it is very hard, right? We talked about, I did a couple streams last week where I kind of, played a devil's advocate, right, against my base case, which is even if we get a bigger push down into here, or even if we come down here, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean the bear market is you know, in effect. Obviously, we have the rate cuts potentially coming down the line in September, and even if they don't cut in September, guys, they're probably going to cut shortly after that. And, you know, you have to remember the rate cuts do not give you instant reactions in the market. Sometimes you get a little correction, sometimes you consolidate, and then eventually you see that the rate cuts kind of leak their way into the markets and give you that positive reaction you would expect. So, it's going to be a hard call here. And, like we covered last week, right, if we do get the bigger drops to the downside and we start bouncing here, it is really that retracement back to the upside where you really have to start paying attention to the high time frame money flow, such as the weekly. Because if that weekly money flow is absolutely tanking to the downside on that retracement, coming towards that zero line, looking for a crossover into the red, well, hey, at that point, I would even say breaking that $104,000 786 could indicate that, right? Like once you start retracing, if that money flow is tanking out on the weekly time frame, looking to come towards that zero line, well, what does that give us? That gives us a very similar situation to the 2021 top, right, where you have the Fibonacci retracements, which let me re-pull this. You have the golden pocket 786 sitting here, and then what happens, right? You get the initial drop to the downside. You start to retrace back to the upside, but what is your money flow doing here on the weekly? It is about to cross over into the red, and this is where I was saying, guys, this is not looking very good unless you're looking for the bear market to come in. Well, in that case, then it is looking very good. But, money flow is coming out, indicating lower highs and lower lows, and you get that rejection right on the golden pocket 786. So it's going to be a very similar situation, right? It's very hard, right? Everybody will come in and say, it's the top, right? They say it every time, and eventually they will be right. But it's very hard to say, like, that's it, we hit 69K, that's the top, right? Like, it's like almost impossible to do, right? You have to let price action develop, if you're looking at money flow, you can read your money flow and understand, like, what are the probabilities of a higher low coming in or a lower high coming in. And here it was very clear that the bear market was very likely to start based off the money flow crossing into the red with the bearish retest of your Fibonacci retracement for the lower high and then the massive lower lows to come. And because of that weekly money flow, it indicated the bear market, and the weekly money flow crossovers into the red, guys, have indicated the incoming bear market almost every single time. And not even almost, every single time it has indicated that. Now, luckily here, we are still pretty thick in the green on the weekly, so you do have to kind of let things develop here, right? If you did have to come down to the value area low, right, well, if we look here at our swing low down at about $75,000, right, we pull this from the low all the way to the high here, you do have some confluence here, right? And if you're looking at this as a trend, right, well, hey, you have your local golden pocket 786, which are obviously the levels I just brought up. But if we do have to rotate this entire volume profile, well, hey, this golden pocket value area low could potentially be a very, very big place to put in a macro higher low before a new all-time high. It does not guarantee that you have to do that, right? If we come down here, we start retracing, and we start coming into some major Fibonacci retracements, I'll pull it from the high, and I'll try to, I wouldn't recommend doing this, but like if you had to try to predict, like, hey, if we come down to about 91 to 92K, right? That Fibonacci retracement is going to be sitting up here at about 112. You could also look at, again, you'll have to let this structure kind of develop, like where's your, lower highs going to be at. You could pull it from those levels as well. But it's those retracements that you're going to have to be looking at. If we do get that bigger drop down here, get accepted into the profile, get the push down to the value area low, fill the CME gap. Just from a structure standpoint, guys, low, high, higher low, higher high is in the cards. But on the way up, if we come into those retracement levels as your money flow is coming out, you have to look at that, and we'll know this, right? If we do come down here and get the bounce, we'll know, like, hey, guys, money flow's not looking that good. We have to be on lower high watch, and if those lower highs come in, it could indicate that the bear market may be starting. But we are so far away from this being, like, a definitive case that we just have to let price action develop, right? Like, who knows? You could bounce off this level, and we won't even have to deal with those levels. But I want you guys to be aware of this. I've covered this so many times on the channel, and just to kind of give you guys the idea of, like, why this is so important. Not only do you have your golden pocket, your value area high, you also have your daily MPOC, which is at the level that I brought up earlier today, right? Daily MPOC, golden pocket. You also have the point of control of your range in there from the previous range. So mega level to hold. You lose it, that would be, in my opinion, the first sign of weakness. Like losing that 107 to 108K level does indicate that you could be on your way to that POC/value area low. But even then, guys, it's going to be more of a let the reaction happen and gauge the reaction as you push up, right? The money flow's coming out. Well, hey, maybe you're in a situation like that. But again, I just don't know if it's that part of the cycle, right? It's not impossible. I can't tell you that I am guaranteeing that the top is not in. But, there's nothing really here, right? Until we start losing this, honestly, until we start losing this golden pocket, there's nothing really like about this pullback that is like, oh my God, the top is in, right? And it's so funny to see how emotional crypto is, guys. It's like we are down right now about 12%. right? And it's like already people are calling the top, which, hey, and listen, maybe at the end of the day you'll be right, but it's just like we see this happen on every pullback, right? And there's just nothing about this. You still have opportunities to put in higher lows on this fib, and then eventually even for the bigger, scary retracement to the downside, which I really would not want to see. But even then, like if we had to come down there, I would have to cover the idea that this is a golden pocket, right? Like there's nothing saying that you cannot do something like this. But we have to see what the markets look like at that point if we have to endure that. So all those key levels pretty much remain the same, right? There's no real like update on the key levels other than the fact that we have pushed into our first zone of support. Sitting here, let me hide some of this stuff so you guys don't get like super confused. And let me just get rid of one of these boxes. Bada boom, right? So we already pushed into the $110,000 to $111,000 level. So if we're unable to like reclaim here and get the bounce from where we're at right now, I will be anticipating that $108,000 to $107,000 level, and it's here where we really are hoping for the bounce and the send back up. And then if we lose that, guys, this is the sign of weakness in my opinion. Lose that major anchored VWAP. We'll have the local levels here at 104 to 100, 104.7, 104.8 to 104K. But at the end of the day, losing this level, like this is going to be major resistance on the way back up. This anchored VWAP is going to be major resistance on the way back up. So I would say losing this is going to be the big sign of weakness where I will be potentially anticipating much lower levels. And I think it's much cleaner to look at it from the volume profile perspective here because, you could see this as just kind of like a range retest, right? Come back down, right? We have our initial breakout where you kind of consolidate, you come back down, Got to be looking for bounces here. Now, whether that's a massive bounce to, new all-time highs, we're going to have a lot of work to do here. If we do bounce from that golden pocket, there's going to be a lot of work to do on the way back up, right? Because like all this, we have this whole range, right? We have the POC. Let me pull that up real quick as well, right? So we have our current range still sitting up here, which has major resistance at about 118.3. So it's the big level that we wanted to get above in order to see the bigger push up into our $120,000 liquidity. We never got there, right? We just got the next push to the downside. So, we're going to have a lot of this resistance to push through on the way up. So we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. But, from a binary perspective, 108 to 107K, guys, that is the big level to hold in my own personal opinion. So that's what I'm looking at here. And again, watch that daily money flow. That daily money flow comes to the downside. And again, we did have the daily bearish divergence up here on the fake out of the all-time high, which we did short in the premium Discord for this beautiful drop to the downside. I will be looking for new shorts on the way up as well, obviously. But, daily bearish divergence, right? You're looking for that drop to the downside. 4-hour money flow crossover into the red, right? You're looking for the lower highs and the lower lows. The lower highs, the lower lows, right? And if we see that daily money flow crossover into the red, I mean, it's going to be a higher time frame situation where you have to look for the bounces to be lower highs and lower lows. And obviously the value area low of this previous range, if we ever make it back up there, is going to be major resistance until we flip into that value area. If we flip that value area low at 100, which does sit at about $115,000, if we were able to get back up there at some point, this would open the door to the POC. You got to get above that major 118.3 level to potentially push up into the high. But until we get above this, guys, I would be looking for lower highs and lower lows at this point, maybe even at that 118.3 level. So yeah, I mean, money flow is coming down. 16-hour money flow in the red, that 12-hour money flow, which we were very suspicious of down here. This is now, been in the red. We faked out into the green, but now we're back in the red here. So, we're going to have to play this level to level, but, money flow is coming out. So we got to be really careful and just pray that we can hold this level. I mean, hey, for what it's worth, hopefully we just hold the upper level. Hopefully we can just reclaim this value area and, push back to the upside, which we are trying to hold on top of that value area high. Hopefully we can get the bounce there, but I am going to be very careful of lower highs and lower lows. And it's not until we lose this golden pocket, guys, where I will be really anticipating the much bigger move down. Hopefully, it doesn't happen. So I'm going to come in and chat real quick here. Shout out to Dizzy Gang, said alt's still holding extremely well. We're going to take a look at Ethereum. We'll take a look at some altcoins as well. Shout out to Blue Mountain Fire, says, ask Rock what the best performing asset in the last 10 years is. There are a couple of alts that have good upside, but there is only one asset with fixed supply. Shout out to Bitcoin. Shout out to Blue Mountain Fire. Yeah, I mean, listen, guys, you could have bought the top every single time here on Bitcoin, and you would still be in the green if you wait long enough. I'm not saying to buy the highs. As a matter of fact, I advocate against that very strongly. But if you hold it long enough, right, for the long-term bags, and again, my average entry price is all the way down here between $20,000 and $21,000, right? So like, I'm not really freaking out over this just yet. But again, we start, things can change, right? We start breaking that golden pocket. We start breaking into this macro value area, right? Like this starts to look much worse, right? Because you can fill that range, right? So, and again, if we get a bounce here, is money flow coming out on the retracement? If so, yikes, it's going to be very similar to 2021. And, I'll be the person. I'll be there, right? Everyone will be like, oh, my God, the bottom is in. If I don't think so, guys, I'm going to be calling for lower highs and lower lows based off the charts. If the charts say we're going to rip up, well, we'll look for that. But, things can change here. And we are approaching one of those big pivotal levels here. So hopefully we can hold the local level here at 110 to 111. If not, 108 to 107. Lose that. Yikes. I'd be looking for bounces on the 786, but very careful of something like that. Very important to realize. And, just to kind of put it into perspective here, I think a lot of people need to pay attention to market. I almost said market flow. It's like a mixture between market structure and market cipher money flow. But yeah, even the move down here, right? I would never just be saying oh my God, the bull market's not over. The bull market's not over, right? But, at the end of the day, this is a valid higher low, right? Not in my opinion, right? Just based off the Fibonacci retracements. But once you start losing that, well, hey, that's where you could start to anticipate a potential bigger drop. I would expect to bounce at the 786 again. But still at that point, it's the same thing here. Lose this golden pocket. Sure, the 786 can give you a bounce, but yeah, I don't know. You'd be really looking to crack this low here if we lose that golden pocket and get accepted into this range. And similarly, you lose this golden pocket and get rejected out of this range. If that 786 doesn't hold up, well, you're looking for a crack of structure to the downside here at about $75,000. We're looking for a new macro low to be set on Bitcoin if that's the case. But we are literally, from that 786, we're 22% away, which can happen very fast. But there's still, we have plenty of room here. We have plenty of levels. We're probably going to talk a million times before that's the actual case. But I will keep you guys updated here every single step of the way, as we typically do. So yeah, let's see here. Shout out to Callie C. Hopefully I said that right. Said, Frank, you always say you should watch the money flow, but for those who don't have market cipher B, how can we replace it? Volume maybe. Shout out to Kali. Yeah, I don't know if there's a good replacement for money flow, but to be quite honest, you don't need money flow to anticipate this stuff. I would probably be looking at the number one, you could watch the show, right? Because I'll always be showing the money flow here. But it would be, I would probably be looking for the breaks of the because again, if money flow is coming out here on the 12, 16 and hour and the daily, right? Well, you can anticipate lower highs and lower lows. But in this case, right, if you bounce off the 786, you could be careful of this lower high, even if you're not looking at money flow. It's if you get accepted into this range, it could be a lower high before a lower low. So I don't know if there's a good replacement for money flow, to be quite honest. I haven't really found one. There's a lot of similar indicators. They're not hard, they're not totally wrong. They're just a little bit different than what I look at here on money flow. They will vary a little bit if you pull them up side by side. So I don't know if there's a good replacement for money flow. But market structure, what money flow kind of does for you, it kind of lets you know what the anticipated longer term trend is going to be. In this case, you have the 12-hour money flow crossover into the green. It's indicates if you break out here, you can continue your higher low, higher high structure, indicating that longer term trend is going to continue to the upside. And if you just understand market structure, I would say that's probably the best thing to look at other than money flow. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Mafia knows about another indicator that can replace, be similar to money flow, but I just haven't found one that's that close. So there you go. Yeah, shout out to Vonza, said market cipher is the king. There really is no replacement. People say WVC or whatever it's called. Nah, the money flow is not the same. Yeah, it's not. I think you're talking about the Fu Manchu indicator. It's not I wouldn't say it's useless to look at, but it's not the same as market cipher. It is definitely different. And yeah, so there you go. Let's see. Shout out to I says, relax, guys. We're not even in September. If 108 to 105 don't hold, oh boy, we're going to at least 90K. Yeah, well, shout out to I. That's actually a pretty good recap of what I'm looking at, right? It's well, hey, if this doesn't hold, well, then we can look for the move into the 786. Again, I wouldn't say that's as strong as a level as this golden pocket. And again, because of the context here, getting stuck into the value area, it's not possible to bounce here, guys. I can't say that it's impossible, but, it is definitely going to be a little bit more sketchy to get accepted in and then push down towards 90K. So, yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I'm looking at. So there you go. Just bought my lifetime market cipher today. Shout out to Russ. Well, welcome to the club, bro. You're going to love it. We're probably pulling back to flush out retail until rate cuts. Then we pump, and then we top out after retail comes back in. Yeah, so just to give you guys an update on my overall context, again, I hate to sound repetitive here, but, nothing has really changed, up until this point, right? It's we look for the lower low, which was the crack of structure here locally into these levels, right? If these don't hold, that is really, again, that's that big line in the sand, in my opinion. So, yeah, and we do still have time, right? We talked about this as we were pushing up here. It's like, guys, be careful of the effery in the market, right? I kept saying the effery, and like here is that effery, right? I've been in this market long enough to understand that the market is crazy, very unlikely. It's like, eventually we'll get a breakout, but, we still have time till September, right? Which could cause some turbulence, right, before finally getting the rate cuts. And again, even on the rate cuts, guys, it's not necessarily always going to be an instant reaction to the upside. Sometimes it does take like a month or so to get that, actually to influence the markets and give us that, big push up that everybody's looking for. So I'd still say this is still in play, right? Like, again, we have not lost the key level of support. This is still possible. I mean, heck, even this is possible, right? Bouncing from the 786. I would just say this is the better level to bounce off of here. Could just wind up a little scalp long before continuing much lower. And again, there's so much information that we'll need to look at as we approach these lower levels to indicate if the bear market is here that we can't look at right now. You have to let price action develop, let the structure develop, let the indicators reset, and assess the new information. There's new information that comes into the chart every day, every minute, every week, every month, right? And on top of this, right, we also had the weekly bearish divergence, right? It's like, this is nothing shocking, right? Like, we're not like, I'm not like looking at this like, oh my God, what's happening? Oh my God, right? We knew that the high, low, lower low was going to be likely into these big key levels of support. It's not until we lose that golden pocket where I start to get a little bit suspicious, right? And then we also have the weekly bearish divergence, higher highs on our price action, lower highs on our momentum waves. There's your bear div, right? Doesn't mean the top is necessarily in, but we would anticipate some kind of a pullback. So, I think looking at the range here is a really, really good context to watch, right? Because it's like you see the confluence, you could see the idea of maybe bouncing off of this and coming back up, and then once you get stuck in here, looking for that full fill of the range, right? Potentially. So there we go. Whales got to force the price down to liquidate, and accumulate at lower prices before Q4. Yeah, shout out to New Earth. I do think if we are going to finish up that final phase of the bull market, again, nothing here structurally has broken just yet. I know it's scary. I know it feels horrible. But again, if you're shorting up at the fake outs of the all-time high, right? Like, I just kind of, over the weekend, I closed the rest of my short position from, I closed the rest of my short position that I took up here at 122.7, I think was my entry, or maybe 122, somewhere up here. I just closed that in full, right? I'm not looking for fresh shorts down here. If anything, right, I would have to get some kind of a retracement to the upside to find another short. If anything, right, you would have to look for some kind of a long down here. I'm not saying it has to be the long of a lifetime, but shorts were to be had up here, right? And nobody wants to hear this, right? And I always talk about being a contrarian in the market, right? A lot of people get upset when we're breaking into new all-time highs, and I'm like, I don't know, guys. Like, could get the fake out. I'll be looking for shorts up here, and people are like, you're crazy, bro. Why would you short all-time highs? Well, it's like the signals were here on the chart. If they were not there and it looked like we were going to break out, I probably wouldn't have taken that short, right? Or I would have stopped out for a small loss. But just to kind of show you guys, like, we look for the shorts up here. We look for the longs as price is pushing down, right? We even had some long positions in the premium down here before we pop back up. But again, what's money flow doing? Money flow indicates a longer-term trend. 4-hour money flow is coming out. Lower highs, lower lows are to be anticipated. And here we are, right? It'll always help you out as far as money flow, keeping you on the right side of the trade. Shout out to Alex. Says, if this is the top, or if this was the top, it was and still is really good to catch this time. Shout out to Alex. I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Maybe like, oh my God, the top is in, let me get out kind of thing by catching it, maybe is what you're thinking. Shout out to Alex. Yeah, I mean, like, we're down 12% from the all-time high. And let's not forget, guys, right? Like, we're down at prices that we were at, like, not too long ago, in July, right? A couple months ago. Again, doesn't mean you're not going to continue down. But it's like, yeah, I think a lot of people just see the red and they freak out, right? But again, we've been waiting for these levels to get tapped, even down here. When we got the drop, we were like, hey, major support down here. And then even here, like, oh my God, major support, got the bounce, could have bounced further here, right? Like, this is just something we've been looking at for quite some time. It's not like a super, super scary, shocking thing, right? That's what helps about understanding the charts. It's like, these drops down, especially when you're short, right? Not only is it make it less emotional because it's like, sure, you don't want Bitcoin to dump, but if you're making money on the way down, anticipating the low to get taken here, it's like, at least like, hey, we expected this to happen. It's nothing like, if you're not looking at the charts, if you don't understand how to do TA or, understand what levels you should be watching, it is very scary, right? If you're just looking at a blank chart here and you wake up and you look at the chart and it looks like this, you're like, oh my God, is this the bear market? What's going on? Like, how would you know, right? But when you do the TA, you understand it's like, well, hey, we still have major, major key support down below. It's not until, right? And there is time to be like, oh my God, this is bearish. But until you lose those levels, right? It's just like, that's what we anticipated, right? There's a good probability 109K will hold. I mean, it is definitely a support level. I would love, right, with the local value area high, right? I'll just pull this up again for anyone who just tuned in, right? This is still a key level, right? I'll pull it up on a higher time frame so it doesn't look as bad, right? Value area high at 109.9, right? All the way up to the daily MPOC at 111K. I would say if we are going to bounce here, an important level to watch to flip is going to be that daily MPOC at 111K, right? Get up here, flip this to support. Maybe that could indicate another retracement to the upside. But I would be very careful here just because we have this major key level down below, right? It's like, we don't have to visit this. You know, I honestly would prefer not to, right? But, you know, I would say reclaiming 111K would be the nice sign for a bigger continuation up. And I don't mean all-time highs, guys, right? Like, that doesn't necessarily mean all-time highs, right? Because if we bounce and money flow is coming out on the daily, you still have to be careful of lower highs and lower lows to continue that downtrend into the bigger key level. But just to be clear, until we lose this, right, I am not really looking for much lower prices. All right, let's see. Shout out to Fast Easy Cash. Thank you for the super chat, bro. And I think we had another one there as well. Shout out to David, said this is like the worst performance by alts ever. A bunch of useless memes and AI junk. Where the big winners were the big winners like over a year ago. Yeah, I mean, this has obviously been the worst cycle for altcoins, at least thus far, right? And I've explained why I think that's the case. But shout out to Infinite Team TA. Thank you for the super chat. Said 1,007 likes tonight, or BTC goes to 0. Jesse, shout out to Jesse, our like police. Come on, 1,007 likes. Let's get it, baby. I think we can do it. Cheers for this, Frankie. Shout out to Adam. No problemo, bro. Salute to you, my friend. If you put the liquidation levels on your chart, it all makes sense. Yeah, and I will. Oh, Mrs. Candles, you got to come in here. We got to sell everything, Mrs. Candles. Yeah, it's going to 0. It looks like it's going to 0. Can we get a hand sniff in here so we can get at least some kind of a retracement? Yeah, well, I already shorted it. But look, come here. Let me see the hand. Oh, yeah, can you grab that for me? I would greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much. Oh, she just ate chips and salt. Smells like Pico. Shout out to Mrs. Candles. Hopefully that can help us, guys. A little Mrs. Candles. Drop those Mrs. Candles hands in the chat if we want this thing to bounce here, guys. Okay, thank you. Shout out to New Word said, bro, we're above 100K. We can't even talk about bear market. Yes. Oh, my God. Yes. Oh, not over there. Mrs. Candle's trying to stay off camera here. Oh, yeah, you got to crawl. You got to get on the floor. You got to army crawl. Oh, Mrs. Candles is almost in frame here. Oh, God. You guys might get a secret Mrs. Candles reveal here. Oh, there we go. She fixed our lights. Thank you, Mrs. Candles. You're the best. She's army crawling across the floor. Oh my God, Mrs. Candles. I'm live, Mrs. Candles. Don't touch me like that. Good Lord. Oh, my God. Talk about pumping up Bitcoin. Anyway, shout out to Mrs. Candles. Okay, shout out to Mrs. Candles. How about 114K at the final power hour? Shout out to Clickbait Ambience. How about 114K at the final power hour? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. If you let me know in the chat, I'll try to answer that for you. Tell her to at least look at the chat. Shout out to Juan. Yeah, Mrs. Candles is super private. She will never show her face here on the live stream. I've tried, guys. I've tried. She just won't do it. Something else is pumping. Shout out to Necro. Yeah, I don't know. She was getting handsy down there. I'm not going to lie. But anyway, guys. But yeah, New Earth says, we're, again, like, I could say, guys, the high is in, right? But, like, there's really no legitimate reason to call for that just yet, right? Doesn't mean that the high is not in, right? Does not mean the all-time high is not in. But, there's nothing here. I try to explain this every live stream to keep everybody kind of, like, from panicking completely, right? Like, until there's a reason. If I'm just looking at this from a Fibonacci perspective, there's no reason, technically, to lose this low at $98,000 until we lose the 786. And again, the golden pocket is the bigger level. I would probably be just from a bias standpoint, if we lose this golden pocket and bounce off the 786, I'd probably still be anticipating the lower low to come in. But until we lose that 786, there's no reason to come down and break structure to the downside, right? But if we lose the golden pocket, if we lose the 786, then we could say, hey, maybe we're losing $98,000, which again would indicate the bigger push through that larger volume profile that we took a look at, right? But right now, like, there's nothing, it's just, it's so funny. Every time we get a dump, it's like, the top is in, the top is in. And again, those people will be right at some point. Broken clock's right twice a day. But there's nothing here just to give a little bit of ease. Right? I'm not saying the top is definitely not in, but from a structure standpoint, there's no reason for me to anticipate that just yet, right? Massive support down below. Even if we have the bigger retracement down to 90K, right? We'll still have to just reassess the situation and see what things look like down there. But there we go. Let's see. I would still prefer to go VWAP down, POC, trap, rip. Shout out to Creighton C. Somebody record that. He might be right. Shout out to Creighton C. We're going to shout out to Cozy says, we're going to the 9,080, the 9.85K CME gap. Let's go. Shout out to Cozy. Yeah, I know. It's like, this is where everybody says the 3K CME gap, the 8K CME gap, we're going to 0. But yeah, I would not anticipate that. Not every CME gap has to get filled. Thank you for the coffee, Mrs. Candles. I appreciate you so much. You're adult. What? I never wear my headphones on the live stream. There's nothing to hear. There you go. Good point. Shout out to Mrs. Candle. She's like, you don't wear your headphones anymore? I'm like, I've never wore headphones on a live stream. But anyway, BTC always dumps in August. I'll take your word for it. I don't know the actual statistics, but I'll take your word for it. What are you staring at, Mrs. Candles? Yeah, go put the Tesla up for sale. We got to sell that thing because it's not looking good, Mrs. Candles. We're poor now. I did. I actually just closed it in full. Well, we are, but we still hold a lot of spot. Mrs. Candles, we'll long it or something. Make more money. Shout out to Mrs. Candles. You crack me up. But anyway, Frankie is the type of guy to drown a fish. Shout out to Vegas Claw. I can't confirm nor deny I've ever done that. Anyway, so what's your opinion on the top being in? No point stating obvious that it might be put in. Conviction beyond your call. Shout out to Khan. My bias is that the top is not in. Right, but you have to understand that doesn't mean that the top is not in, right? It's like, I talked about this last week. A lot of people try to go off someone else's conviction, right? And I know a lot of the calls that we make here wind up playing out, right? We've been looking at this golden pocket. Will it get hit? I would say it's probable. But it's, my base case here is still that the top is not in, right? We'll see the rate cuts, and even if they don't cut in September and things get super bloody, maybe that's a situation that we see, right? There's so many scenarios that can play out, but let's assume, right, we pull up into this major volume profile, right? It's like we break down below here, right? We lose the 786, we push into the POC, the value area low. If we're retracing and money flow is coming out, this is where, like, when I called for the top in 2021, it was not, oh my God, the top is in at 69K, right? I said this 2 seconds ago, right? You get the big drop down, you start to consolidate, price action develops, money flow develops, the weekly money flow starts coming out, which gives you what, right? As you're pushing up here, what is your bias? Your bias is, well, hey, on the weekly time frame, just like we look at on the 5-minute, the 15-minute, the 20-minute, the daily, the bias here with money flow coming out is lower highs and lower lows. The unfortunate situation when you're looking at this on the weekly is the lower high and the lower low is on a very high time frame, which at this point, right, we had enough time for the bull market to play out. It was very likely that we were looking for the bear market to come in here. I got a lot of hate on that call, and it wound up being right? But I did not call the top, oh my God, 69K, that's the top, right? We didn't come down 5%, and I said that was the top. But you have to let this develop. It's going to be the same thing here, right? And, at this point, even when we got this first pullback, it's like, well, hey, you have support here. This could be a situation where you have a higher low and a higher high. And at that point, money flow is still pretty thick in the green here, right? So it's very hard to say that that's going to be the top. It's not until you finally get a lot of development on the money flow. So my personal bias here is that it is more probable at this point that the top is not in. Right, but that does not mean a guarantee, right? A lot of people try to take that conviction of just because that's my base case, that's what they have to go with, right? It's not the case, right? And I don't even do that, right? Because I understand that the charts are going to do what the charts are going to do. It doesn't matter what my bias is, but it makes sense to me, right? That we obviously have massive support down below, even below these key levels. These are medium-term levels, right? Even down here at 92K, we still have massive support, right? And if we come down here and they start cutting rates and we get a massive V-shaped recovery, right? Well, they start cutting rates, right? Now we're in a macroeconomic environment that could call for, a huge pump, right? Which was happened in the past. at that point is where you really have to make that call. But like on the chart here, there's nothing to me telling me that this is the top, right? It's telling me that this could be the case, right? Or even this potentially, right? So yeah, my base case still sits that the top is not in. I think we will make a new all-time high. But once these, we start breaking down some key levels, money flow starts to look like garbage, and maybe it happens before we hit 92K, right? Maybe we start to see those warning signs early, right? I don't know how this is exactly going to, structurally play out, right? Might wiggle around up here, right? Until money flow comes out on the higher time frames, and then we get the drop. Then we'll have a little bit of an earlier indication that the top is in. But my base case here is still, right? Like the worst thing to do is like get a big scare in the market, one last shakeout, right? And then they start cutting rates, and then they start QE, and then we get all the inflation, right? Which would be the inflation of assets as well, which would call for everything to pump, right? So like you don't want to get like shaken out here if there's no reason to, and then they start cutting rates, and you sell your bag at the bottom, and then you rip back up to the higher prices, right? Into new all-time high. So I would still say my base case is here that open door to all-time highs is still there, right? But that will change if something changes on the chart. So there you go. Let's say the top is in. Is it still possible to see total market cap hit 6 to 8 billion, causing alts to 10 to 20x, all in Q4 like many predict? Shout out to Scott. Yeah, so I would anticipate, right? Like again, there's no anticipation here that like alt season would start, right? What is one thing that we really want to see for alt season? Well, it's the rate cuts, right? Right now we only have rumors, right, of the rate cut, and obviously the percentages and the predictions on the Fed Watch tool are very high, which are oftentimes very correct, right? They're correct way more than they're not. I don't think I've ever seen them be wrong. Not to say that they can't be wrong, but this is why I say we still have time till September, right? Plenty of time for some effery in the market, right? Like even scary effery, right? Before seeing that rate cut come in. And, this all leads to a potential Q4 explosive movement, right? I would expect those new all-time highs for Bitcoin and altcoins to potentially come in that Q4 zone, right? We take a look at our, we've taken a look many a times at our fib time, right? I will just pull it really quickly here to show you guys who don't know what I'm talking about. I'll just pull this from... Let me get rid of these brushes, right? Well, I'll just mark off the level. It's already here. October 20th is that 1-to-1 fib, which is where the top came in 2021. It doesn't mean the top has to come in there, right? But, if this is that fib time zone that we're looking at, right, or that not fib time zone, but fib time level, there's still some effery to be had here, and then finally finish this thing in like Q4, right, or Q4 going into 2026. Could this time be different, right? Like, you have to understand that, like, something, I am not the person who ever calls for this time is different, especially if it's for, like, some kind of a super cycle. These people have been wrong every single time. Maybe they'll be right one time, but they've been wrong, like, every single time. To the downside and the upside, people calling for 100K, people calling for 8 to 3K, right? They were wrong here. They were wrong here. I just go along with the cycles and the charts, right? Like, if we did not have massive weekly bull dips here with money flow coming up, I wouldn't have said, right, that, like, this is likely the bottom being in, right? I'd probably say, well, hey, I'm going to start dollar cost averaging. If we drop back down, I'll continue to dollar cost average. But, we do still have time to get to this level, right? And it would make a lot of sense, right? Like when you look at the top in 2021, right? What happened here? Top comes in October, right? September, October, into November, right? Into Q4, and then we start kind of dumping in Q4. But it's kind of that same area. It would make a lot of sense for that to be the case, right? It doesn't guarantee it, right? But that's kind of my base case here. Now, could it extend, right? What if we go into September and they don't cut rates and it causes a massive dump in the market? Well, that's a difficult situation in my opinion, right? Because then you're looking at this and you're saying to yourself, well, they're going to cut rates eventually, right? They have to. There's a massive tech crisis. They have to cut the rates. They have to increase liquidity, right? So if this is the case, right, you see that massive, that's going to be a really sticky situation because it's like, could this time be different potentially, right? But it's never going to be my base case, right? Every time we have been somewhat rhyming with the 4-year cycle, right? And we are approaching these levels where it's like, the longest we've ever had from the halving to an all-time high, I believe was 525 days, right? We still have some time for that to be. It's close to October 20th, right? So there's still some time here. And then if we do see something crazy like that, right, where we see like no rate cuts, it causes a big crash, right? And then it goes into 2026, right? That'll be something we've never seen before. And there's no way to predict that, right? And I will never make that my base case. because it loses way more. It's like lower probability for it to be just completely different. But if we're in a different macroeconomics, like we can't control when they cut rates, right? So it's like if they don't cut in September, right, like chances are they will eventually cut. And like that is a case where maybe you could see it push into 2026. But again, that's not going to be my base case. If I think the top has come in, right, I'm not just going to like bank on the situation of like maybe this thing is going to do something it's never done before. But it is definitely a possibility, right? And that's what I would look for. So there. Shout out to Infinite. Thank you for the super chat, bro. Said, when it hurts so bad you want to quit, it's time. Shout out to Infinite. Yeah. I mean, again, is this behavior that we see at the tops of markets? Not historically, right? Take 2021, for example. Everybody was, and like I said this the other day. I've said this so many times. When everybody is saying bear market on the dips, those are typically the dips you want to buy, right? Where was the sentiment really bad? It was really bad right here. What was that? Buy the dip situation. Sentiment was horrible back here. What is it? A buy the dip situation, right? Typically the dips you don't want to buy are the dips where people are calling for super cycles. 30K is the bottom, 100K incoming. Buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. But when you start looking at this and you're like, well, historically, we're seeing massive bearish divergences. We're seeing weekly money flow come out. There's massive signs of weakness here. And everyone's saying buy the dip, right? That is typical of top behavior, right? In my opinion, I don't personally think retail ever really fully came back in this time, right? Maybe this is the cycle where retail doesn't come back in and buy the top. But chances are, right, that like during the top, you will see people like, oh my God, the bull market is just starting by the dip. This bull market has not just started. This bull market is been going for quite some time, right? Having massive rip, right? We are in the bull market, right? So, if we were up at 140K, right? Let's say we pushed up to 130 to 140K. And everybody's saying buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. But we have massive divergences, weekly money flow coming out. That's where I'm saying I'm probably taking most of my profits, right? Because usually the masses are wrong. And not that I really base my decisions off of that, but I mean, you just have to think to yourself, what is the typical behavior that you see? It's massive euphoria. Your Uber driver's telling you to buy some meme coin you've never heard of, right? Meme coins are going crazy, seemingly. Everybody's getting rich with meme coins. Your friends are asking you what to buy. This is not that environment. So it's not even from like a chart perspective, but also just from like a market psychology perspective. But if things start to break here, right, like maybe this time will be different. But this isn't just in Bitcoin, right? This is like any asset, right? You will see euphoria at the highs. We have not seen euphoria. It's been a very painful cycle, right? Every time we make a new all-time high, it's instant pain. Right? And like this cycle has been scamming the retail more than ever because everybody gets excited. You get a little bit of euphoria. Oh my God, we're going up. Holy cow. And then they get into this massive drop / massive boring consolidation. They're like, what the heck? This thing's going to zero. This has got to be the bear market. I'm down, 32% ever since I bought in. This is a scam. Well, it's like I said last week, right? Like that's more of an indication of where you bought, right? You bought the top, which a lot of people have to do. So don't feel bad about that if you did it, right? But then they all get shaken out. They think it's all over. And then, boom, we get another rip to the upside. A little bit of euphoria comes back in. People funnel in. Oh, my God, new all-time high. We're ripping. Buy, 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 buy. Massive correction. They get sick of it. Oh, my God, bear market. Another push up. I don't really think we saw any kind of euphoria up here personally, right? I didn't feel that on the channel. I didn't feel that in the chat. But again, right, anyone who did feel euphoria up here and bought in thinking that you're going to rip to the upside, right, I will say this till I'm blue in the face. You do not want to buy. If you're looking to buy Bitcoin up here, it's not the best time, right? It's literally almost the most expensive it's ever been at the time. Right? It's like, why would you buy at that price, right? You're buying at the wrong time. The time to buy is when there's massive fear in the market. Not, oh my God, the bull market's just starting, we're going up forever, right? Doesn't mean that you're not going to continue up, but this is always going to be a bad time to buy, right? You want to at least wait for the retracement, but it's very hard to buy for new people, right? Because everyone's saying it's the bear market. Oh my God, we're going to zero, right? Everyone buys in here. You're literally buying the most expensive Bitcoin has ever been, and then you get dumped on. Oh my God, this is so scary. I'm down 30% again. What the heck, right? And then you get another bounce. It's just like the psychology of the market. Like if we saw massive euphoria here, if Trump was launching his meme coin up here, right, I would be much, much more bearish, right? So, again, it doesn't guarantee that the top's not in, but it's just giving you guys an idea of like why my base case is my base case. And not only that, but giving you the lines in the sand of like where, once we start losing $92,000, right, on our macro volume profile, right? We start losing this. It's like that really starts to get really worrisome. And, something totally different can play out. I don't want to, just because those people are wrong every time, it doesn't mean that we're never going to see something different play out, right? Like maybe you don't get the rate cuts and it pushes longer, right? And you do hold the 786 and go up. But there's going to be signs on the chart at that point, right? So, and I'll walk you guys through it every step of the way. If it looks like trash down here and I think the bear market's in, I'm looking for retracements for the bear market, right? And I will talk about those possibilities when they come into play. But right now, I mean, this is bullish, right? Or not, I want to say this is bullish, but right, like holding this golden pocket is a possibility. Holding this golden pocket is a possibility. It's not until you lose that value area low at $92,000 where you'd be expecting to crack the $72,000 low. Right? Nothing about this pullback makes me think that you have to take out 72K from a technical perspective. So yeah. And I would never, a lot of people say, like, I don't care. It feels bearish. Everyone's saying it's going to zero. It's like, well, if you want to be on the team of the masses, that's fine, right? Maybe they'll be right. But, the charts are the truth, guys. The charts are the truth. Shout out to Nathan, said this is absolutely normal. People forget that a market shooting straight up is unsustainable and a worrying sign. Corrections are very necessary. Yeah, shout out to Nathan, 100%. Right, and we're not even past the more local fib retracements. So it's it's no reason. This is a healthy correction until we wind up, really breaking the 786. But again, the golden pocket's the bigger level in my opinion. Right, so until we start breaking that, there's no reason to look lower. Now, we could try to front run that, right, by seeing the money flow, right? If we start losing this level and money flow on the daily is coming out, well, hey, maybe the lower highs and lower lows are going to be more likely. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So, yeah, just trying to put it into context, right? And again, right, not only are pullbacks healthy, right, if you wanted to be on the team that pullbacks are not healthy, right, you would have sold the bottom here. You would have sold the bottom here. When you should have been looking to buy the dip, right? And we were very explicit here on the channel about this being just for what it's worth, why was I not panicking when we dumped down to 75K, guys? It had everything to do with the fact that we had our Fibonacci retracement there. There is no reason to panic, and you can go back to the live streams and look at this, right? There is no reason to panic for the bear market to be in. Why? Well, we're holding the 786, holding the structural highs of our previous range. This is a low, a high, a potential higher low for a higher high, which was my personal bias, and we saw that play out. It's not because I guessed or I knew some secret, right? It's just the fact that there is nothing worrisome about a correction to the 786. In our particular case, the golden pocket is much more important. But again, it's not impossible to bounce off the 786. So, you're really going to be looking at that as a zone. Once you break the 786, what will we be looking at? We would be looking to crack this structure. At least cracking the structure down here at 66K. But what happened? We had massive. How did we know that there was a high probability that this would hold? It's not just the fact that you can hold this. You don't have to just guess, right? Well, you have bullish divergences on high time frames, lower lows on your price action on the daily, higher lows on your momentum waves on the daily, bullish divergence. At least some kind of a bounce here is likely. And then once you see that money flow crossover into the green, the continuation of the trend to the upside is much more probable, right? This is exactly how we predicted that move. It wasn't just me saying no, the bear market. It's not like we just call for a bounce at every single level, right? There's a very specific reason. There is no reason. This is a healthy correction. Why? Because that golden pocket 786 is sitting there. It's not until you lose that where you're looking for the bigger drop. We're in a very similar situation here, just with a different fib, right? So there's no reason to call for the bear market when you can put in a higher low here and continue up. It's the same exact thing. If we see massive daily bull divs down at that 786, of course I would be careful around that macro value area high that I brought up. But at the end of the day, if money flow comes back up, you can look for that bigger continuation. Just to show you the technical reasons why this is a healthy pullback. It's the same exact thing as back here. People will be like, you're an idiot, man. I don't know how you think this is healthy. We're dumping. And it's like, look at the charts, right? If you understand and read the charts, it's very clear, right? So there you go. Hopefully it helps you guys out. Hopefully I can ease some of the fear. And again, it does help when you're shorting at the tops as well, right? You make the money on the way down. And you might say, well, why wouldn't you hold this, right? If we're going to go down to that golden pocket, why not hold it, right? Well, you can't get greedy. You got to pay yourself along the way. And again, I didn't really have too much left in that position. I locked in another $850 over the weekend as it hit my final take profit, right? On top of the almost 3,000 that I had locked in. So, that helps as well, right? Because not only are you, looking, it helps you just keep an eye on the charts because it's well, hey, we're dumping. My spot bags are down, but at least I'm capitalizing on the move to the downside. And sometimes, right, what you can do is use those profits to rebuy the dip. I'm not telling you to buy here. I'm just saying, that's kind of how I do it, right? I'll make my money trading and then I can roll those into spot bags and buy the dips. So yeah. Shout out to Pose said, Frankie Candles, don't forget, we are not crazy, brother. Your TA rocks. Shout out to Pose. Yeah, it's like, it always sounds crazy until it plays out. It's the same thing with the fake out of the all-time high. Be careful here, guys. No, we have to go up in a straight line forever. And it's like, well, if I thought that, I wouldn't have shorted, right? But I did, and we came down, right? And it's only, we sound crazy up here, right? And if you want to take a rational, logical approach to the markets and not just gamble off of what some influencer says, me included, right? At least I back it up with like legitimate TA. But you know, you sound crazy shorting an all-time high, but if there's a reason to take the trade, I'm going to take the trade every single time. I'm not gambling on a massive position here, willing to wreck my account, right? I'm just taking shorts here with stop losses, right? If I get stopped out here, it's like, well, hey, we were also holding long positions as well. So it's like, hey, I shorted the high. If this thing comes down to put in the low, right? Because remember, we had the fib, high, low, lower, high, lower, low on the weekly. I know you closed your candle bodies here on the daily, but the weekly put in the lower high, right? Very slightly, but it did reject that 786 golden pocket, right? Well, if I have a reason to enter the trade here, which we did in the premium Discord, I'm going to take that trade every single time. If it stopped me out, I would take a small loss, and my long positions from lower would continue to pay me out, right? It's all a game of probabilities. It's not about guessing up or down and then putting your whole account on it, right? That is gambling. I mean, feel free to do that. We're all adults. But that's not how you can consistently make money trading. So, yeah, it's like when I call, you know, it doesn't mean I think the top is in forever, right? It's just like I think there's a opportunity to capitalize on a move to the downside. And if you have the skills to make money on the way down, why not do that, right? I just can't believe it's the end of the market. Literally, even on 124K, I felt like it felt boring slow. Yeah, shout out to Bubby. Yeah, I mean, like, listen, we could still go into that new all-time high, right? That's still my base case until we start breaking these key levels of support. But yeah, I mean, it's, again, like there was no euphoria. There's no Uber driver telling you to buy meme coins. There's no, your friend's not a financial advisor yet. Like, these are the signs that we see at the top of the market. And I will say the only time I saw an inkling of that was back here in Q4 of 2024, right? Like when XRP was ripping, right? When we got that first major move to the upside, like this was, I saw little euphoria, right? I got a couple of text messages. I had some family asking me, but it wasn't like what you see at the top of bull markets, right? Like at the top in 2021, I got text messages from dang near everybody. Oh my God, what should I buy? We're going to $1 million. I heard Bitcoin's not a scam. And then I got to be the guy to be like, I don't know, right? Like anytime you're buying any of these highs, right? Even locally, we talked about this last week. Right? It's like we talked about missing moves and not freaking out, right? And this, I was talking to the premium Discord earlier today. Like we had a few different long positions down here in the premium that we were looking at. And, you know, I was telling everybody, right? Like if you miss a position, like there's no reason to chase it. We talked about this on the live stream as well. It's like, I can't chase a long here. Why? Well, if I want to long the lows, right? I don't want to long after a big move up. Now, it doesn't mean you can't continue to the upside, but after you have this move up, the only thing I can look for are short positions. Literally covered this on the live stream on Friday. And why would that be? Well, the risk to reward on a short position up here is much better, right? If you want to take a short here with your short stop loss above the high, right, for a potential lower low to come in, your risk to reward here is great. But for a long position, unless you're like micro scalping the 1 minute with a super tight stop loss, right? Like you've already gotten a big move up. You have to wait for some kind of a retracement for a new long, or you have to put your stop loss below the swing low, which is a terrible risk to reward, even if you're targeting the value area high. I mean, heck, even if you're targeting the all-time high, it's like not a great risk to reward, right? So it doesn't mean that you can't continue up, but it just means like, why would you buy it after you miss the move to the upside? And what happens, right? People will long this and be like, or maybe you look for the long, you don't take it, right? And then it plays out and you're like, oh my God, I missed the long. If you FOMO in here, right? It doesn't matter if it's going to continue up, if it's going to come back down, you're going to get another opportunity. And this is a perfect example, which is why I covered it so much in the premium, is like if you felt FOMO up here, there's a reason why I say like there's no reason to FOMO in here. If you miss the move, you miss the move. Like me, every single time I said this, you know, this was my situation, right? I was not in the long position, but I don't chase it. If anything, I would look for the short. I didn't take the short, but if anything, I'd be looking for a short position here just because the risk to reward is much better, right? And even if that was just for a little retracement for a higher low and a higher high, I would rather make money on the short and then take a long on a retracement before a higher low and a higher high, right? And what happens here? If you FOMO'd in at the top, You literally bought the top, and what happens? You have another opportunity to take a long. You have another opportunity to take a long. You have another opportunity to take a long, right? So you're always going to get given multiple opportunities in the market, right? So, and like even here, right? I closed my short here. If we continue down, I'm not going to chase that short. Why? We've already dumped wick to wick 12% from the all-time high. This is not the best place to look for a short. It doesn't mean that price is not going to continue down, but I would have to get some kind of a retracement to enter in as price is coming up. You want to short when price comes up and long when price is coming down. And I know if you're new, that might sound crazy to you. You're like, well, if price is going up, don't you just want to long because it's going to go up? No, not necessarily. You would have to wait for some kind of a retracement, or at least that's what would be the logical thing to do. And that's why the volume profiles help so much, right? Oh my God, I missed the long. Are you going to long up here? No. Why? You're approaching resistance, right? If you wanted to look for a long and you thought it was going to continue up, look for a retracement, right? But if not, you want to short at the value area high or a deviation above. When you're below, like I believe we did short up here in the premium, but like on this short position, right, I'm taking profits on the way down. And as we're getting out of those positions, the only thing to look for down here is a long. And I know most people will feel bearish because it's dumping and they'll be like, well, hey, time to short this thing. When it's quite literally the opposite. Even if you continue down in a bigger way, you don't want to short on the way down. You want to wait for a retracement, come into resistance, and find a reason, an entry trigger to take a short for a potential lower high and a lower low. But you're never going to be on the right side of the trade if you're longing after the move up or the move down, or longing after the move up or shorting after the move down. So like, yes, this could be looked at as bearish, but I would be, if I was not short from up here, I would not be chasing the short down here, right? I would just be patient and be like, well, hey, let me see if there's a reason to take a long. And why would I be looking for a long instead of a short? Well, hey, if I wanted to short here, where's your stop loss got to go, right? If you're going to use a stop loss, right? Like, where's your stop loss going to go? I mean, you can have an aggressive stop loss on like some local levels, but at the end of the day, your long is going to have a much better risk to reward, right? Like let's say you catch an SFP or a bullish divergence, right? Your stop loss can go below the low, and then you have an opportunity for a bounce to the upside. And you can identify if that's going to be a high probability trade, which we did take this in the premium Discord. We had two setups from the absolute low and then the golden pocket retracement, right? If anyone missed this long, I personally missed the long entry from the bottom, but what did I do? Did I chase a long into resistance? No. My bias was a continuation up, but I didn't just funnel into a long here. I knew price would very likely retrace. Where would I look for the higher low? Into the golden pocket 786. Where did I take that long entry? In somewhere in that golden pocket 786, right? Stop loss below low, target of the high. This is a good risk to reward. Small loss, massive potential for a gain, right? So it doesn't mean just because you're not longing the top that you don't think it's going to continue. It's just not a great place to enter after you've already missed the move. If I'm not long from down here, I'm not chasing that move. Because what's going to happen? You're going to get in, you're going to get chopped out of that situation, you're going to think, oh my God, we're bearish now, let me short, and you're going to get wrecked, right? So a little bit of sauce for the Mafia. Hopefully it helps some people out there if you're new. But the volume profiles help gigantically with that, right? Because down here is looked at as undervalued. This is where you want to look for longs anyway. Where do you want to look for shorts? On deviations above the profile. Even here, you got acceptance into the range, push to the POC. You held the POC as support, and we were able to identify that based off our continuation expectation, based off money flow. Closed the short here, took a long from the POC with the premium into new all-time highs. Right, but we did not long here for all-time highs, right? If you wanted to long here for all-time highs, you're too late, right? Doesn't mean you can't do it, right? But it's just not the best place to enter as far as a trading, from a trading perspective. Now, for spot bag, right, it's a little bit different maybe because you're not as, keen to catch the tippy bottom, right? Hopefully you do catch the bottom, but you don't have to, right? From a leverage trading perspective, you want to get in at the lows and have a tight stop loss to protect yourself. So there you go. Shout out to Vegas Claw. Hey, Frankie, with placing your short, where are you putting your stop loss when we are at all-time highs? So for me personally, right, like your stop loss placement is going to be dependent on many different things, right? It's going to be dependent. I mean, it depends on your entry trigger, right? So if you were, let's assume that you were looking for like an SFP, which we did get on the daily. I don't trade daily SFPs, but let's say you entered off this swing failure pattern. You close these candles slightly above it. It's pretty much an SFP. Like for an SFP, right, let's say you get in at the SFP level, right, your stop loss is going to go above the wick, right? That would be your stop loss for an SFP. But it's going to be different depending on your entry, right? If you didn't catch the SFP like I did, if you didn't catch the SFP like I did, meaning I didn't catch the SFP, I actually caught a failed auction of, I believe it was this high. It was a little bit higher than here, right? But it was very similar to an SFP setup where you come up, you try to trade above the level. Once you break down below that, that's where you're looking for the failed auction to come into play and give you a bigger move to the downside. And you got the failed auction of the all-time high as well. But it really depends, right? Like, are you entering in on the SFP up here? Well, in that case, your stop loss would be above the wick. How far above the wick? Well, that's going to be dependent on your position size, right, and your risk tolerance. So it really depends, right? It's gonna vary based off every single setup, right? If it's an SFP, you go above the wick. If it's off a divergence, right? Like, let's say, it's really going to depend on each individual setup. So there's no real, like, a lot of people are looking for the answer of like, oh, you just set a 1% stop loss, right? Absolutely not. Your stop loss is going to be set up based off the invalidation of your trade. If you were entering a trade and just saying like, I think I'm going to set a 2% stop loss, right? Like, there's no plan there, right? The chart does not care about how much percent your stop loss is sitting at, right? What it does care about is market structure, liquidity, and the actual levels. So it really depends. Like, for example, like, let's see here. So you didn't do this, but let's just say price pushed up into this golden pocket 786 and you caught an entry on the lower high here. Your stop loss can go above this swing high. Right? Now, how high up it goes depends on your risk tolerance and your position size. But the idea here is like, well, hey, if I break above this 786, that invalidates the idea of a lower high and a lower low, and I would be looking for a breakout. So I want to get out once I wind up holding that 786 as support. You can give yourself a little bit of room to play, but there is no, like, if you're setting your stop loss as like, I'm going to take a trade here instead of 1% stop loss, the chart does not care about that. And this is why a lot of people get stopped out of their positions before price goes in the direction they wanted anyway, right? Because, like, that's why I love SFPs, and I use it oftentimes to explain stop losses, because it gives you a clear invalidation for the trade. Let's say you're looking at this swing failure pattern right here, right? Or let's just say this one, right? Let's say let's say this one, this little swing failure pattern right here. You wick below, you close the candle above. That's your long setup. Where's your stop loss going to go? Your stop loss is going to go right below that wick. I don't know where exactly you would get your entry, but we'll just say it was right there. The idea here is that if you break this wick, that SFP is invalidated and you're expecting a bigger move down. It doesn't matter what this says, right? Like, I'm not ever setting it based off this percentage. I am setting it based off where the invalidation of the trade is, because that's what the chart cares about. The chart doesn't care that you only want to set a 1% stop loss, right? Like, the chart, I only want to set a 0.07% stop. Like, the chart doesn't care about that. The chart cares about the chart. So you always set your stop loss based off the invalidation of your trade. If you don't know what the invalidation of your trade is, you have to take a couple steps back and learn how to create a trading plan and understand your strategy. If you don't know where your invalidation for your trade is, you shouldn't be taking the trade, right? Because you need to know where to get out. And it has nothing to do with the percentage of your stop loss. It has to do with the chart. Does that make sense? So there you go. And I use the SFP because it's very clear invalidation below the wick. And how much room you give there is up to you, right? And your personal risk management plan. And in this case, right, what would happen? You would have came back to break even, but you wouldn't have gotten stopped out, and you would have had the trade run. But a lot of times what will happen is somebody will enter, people will enter trades. This has happened to me plenty of times in the beginning of my trading journey, right? It's like, all right, well, hey, I think, whatever. I think I'm going to get this long position here. I'm going to set my stop loss below the low. Maybe it's not a swing failure pattern, right? And this is kind of a bad example because it was an SFP. But what a lot of people do, I'll just draw this out real quick, right? I'll drop some sauce for the mafia. So let's just say, hey, I'm coming down to key support. I'm going to take the long position off key support. There's my long position. I'm going to put my stop loss. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's like below a previous low. I'm just going to set my stop loss below the previous low. Well, if you have potential liquidity sitting in the market, right? Where's your stop loss going to go here? It's going to go below this low, right? Where's everybody else, all the other retail stop loss going to go? It's going to go below that swing low. It's a very common beginner way to set your stop loss. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just what most people do. So what does that do? It puts a lot of liquidity below this low. And if you have a wick down here, right, I would instantly see this as like, hey, I have a lot of liquidity here. You could look at the heat map. If you have your heat map showing a lot of liquidity as well, you could say to yourself, well, hey, we have a lot of liquidity sitting here. So maybe there's only one level of support here. Maybe there's a big level of support down here with a lot of liquidity leading up to it. A lot of times what people will do is they will take their long position, right? And they'll think like, okay, this is where I want to take my long, right? We came down to support. I'm going to put my stop loss below the low. But now everybody's thinking that. Right? And let me actually, I'll take this one step further, right? I'll even just draw a volume profile. Value area high, POC. I don't know why that. POC. Value area low, right? Here's your range. Oftentimes what will happen is you'll have a lot of people longing the lows. right? Price comes into the range, they long the low, back to the high, back to the low, back to the high, back to the low, and this is why I love swing failure patterns. If everybody is longing the bottom of here expecting some kind of a breakout, well, there's probably a lot of stop losses sitting below that low. And if you can get a nice little SFP wick that you're looking at, right? Maybe your wick's there. And again, this is obviously like, you know, I'm making this up as I go. Right? If you're long here, there's a lot of stop losses. And even people who are just longing support, where are their stop losses going to go? Their stop loss is probably going to go below the support, right? So they're basically what that does is it builds up a lot of liquidity down here below the support level. So what is very likely to happen to these people? Well, very likely all their liquidity is going to get taken, right? Liquidity acts as a magnet for price, especially if you could see it on the heat map. So what I would personally do is I would say, hey, if I could come down to this SFP level and sweep out those liquidations, that's where I want to enter. And you'll see a lot of people say, I think this is so corny, I never say this, like, you're my exit, you're my liquidity, right? It's like, whatever. It's not that deep. But if you do come down, right, I would be saying, hey, there's a suspicious low here. I have a lot of liquidity here. Maybe money flow is pointing to the downside, and I'm expecting this level to get hit. If I come down there and get an SFP, what is the idea of this SFP? It is the idea of all this liquidity, right? SFP is a liquidity sweep, right, or a liquidity grab, which is essentially stopping out all these long positions, right? So if all that liquidity is sitting down here with those stop losses below the low, right? This is positions all throughout here is all sitting, all that liquidity below this support and below that wick. I'm going to look for a drop to the downside, a sweep of all that liquidity, and a closure above that level. That's your SFP. And then this is oftentimes where you see people say, oh, I had a nice long position, but what happened to them? I longed it, and it was going so good, we ranged around, and then it just stopped me out, and then we went in the direction we wanted to. Well, very likely they were a victim of a liquidity sweep. Right? So this is how an SFP actually works, right? So where people are setting their stop losses is oftentimes where you want to look for your entries, right? Because if you have a lot of people, especially in a range, a lot of people longing the lows with stop losses below support, it builds up that magnetic liquidity level that is very likely to get swept. So you just let those people long and wait for that liquidity to get swept, and then you enter your position, everybody gets wrecked, and then you're in on the right side of the trade. And this also happens a lot on patterns. Why is that? Well, because the majority of retail that trades patterns, they just see a bull pennant, right? And they think that is not guaranteed. I hope they don't think it's guaranteed, right? But they're looking at this and they're saying like, oh my God, I'm going to long this. This is a bullish pattern. It's going to break out, right? So what do? They long for whatever target. Their stop loss goes below the pattern, right? Or below the lows. Right? Oh my God, this is I'm going to long this. This is a bull pennant. Oh my God, this is a bull pennant. And you have millions and millions and millions of trades down there creating all that liquidity, right? And what happens a lot of times with this is if you have a lot of that liquidity that you can see below the low, oftentimes what will happen, and sometimes it's really brutal, it'll fake you out and then sweep the liquidity and then send it up. This is why I don't trade patterns alone, right? It's a retail strategy, and retail usually gets wrecked. Right? So you have all these retail traders, and you can say to yourself, I know a lot of retail trades patterns. I know that their stop losses are going to be down here. And if you have a wick to look at for that SFP, you could say, well, hey, maybe you have bearish, money flow or something looking for another move down. You're going to be like, well, hey, I have liquidity sitting down here. I have an SFP that I'm looking for. I have key support down below. I'm going to wait for the SFP. All those retail traders get stopped out. They were right? The market was bullish. It pushed up, but they just didn't have the entry triggers correct, and they all get stopped out before finally pushing it to the upside. So if you're ever in a situation where like you have a good trade, but it gets stopped out right before you come back to the upside, your stop loss was part of that liquidity zone that got taken out. And this is why I love swing failure patterns, right? And then at that point, your stop loss, right? I'll just get rid of some of these, right? Your stop loss would be below the wick, right? In this case of my drawing, it would be pretty low, but that's where your stop loss would be. And you're not saying like, you're not just relying on some arbitrary pattern. You're actually trading off the liquidity. And if price breaks that wick, you probably want to get out of the trade. It's probably going to continue down. So the invalidation on SFP is below the wick, not just some random, these people are probably just like, I'll set a 1% stop loss. As long as I'm somewhere below that pattern, my trade's valid, right? But this is why I don't trade patterns alone. I pay attention to patterns. I just don't trade them alone. You have to put them together with other confluences, right? And confirmations. So there you go. I know it was a little bit of a long-winded answer, but let's continue on. ADA, shout out to In the Moment. Let's take a quick look at ADA. Please do not super chat your altcoins. Quick reminder, guys. I will take them from the free chat. So yeah, Cardano back down here at the value area high of our range, which is always resistance until proven otherwise. And I'll give you like worst case scenario here for Cardano. You still have this golden pocket sitting here, pulled from the low all the way to the high. It is confluent with your POC. This level remains the same. Sits between 72 and 68 cents. Value area high is your local key level of support. If you break back down below this, you could get the drop into the PLC golden pocket. This would be like the next big support level for Cardano, in my opinion. Now, if I actually take this stuff off the chart real quick, let me just hide this stuff real quick. Right, you could even potentially pull this as like a local profile. Low, high, deviation above the high. You're now getting stuck inside the volume profile. Could push you back down towards that value area low. So you could pull that on your chart. It's just over this kind of like wonky little consolidation / trend. But I just pulled that just because I can never unsee these volume profiles, right? And if I pull this on top of our other levels, yeah, I mean, and then at that point, right, you're accepted back into your profile. If you lose this value area high, you could already be expecting the value area low. And then if you deviate below, right, you could look for bullish confirmations into that golden pocket POC. Because at that point, relative to your recent price action, this would be discounted, right? This would be a cheap asset. Deviations below the value area is where you want to look for longs in anticipation of a reclaim and a push back up. So this would be like key level number one that I would look at on the higher time frames. Lose this value area high. You could be looking for that bigger push down to the PLC. You have the golden pocket confluence, which could be an area to get a bounce for a continuation. If you lose this golden pocket, I will simply be looking down to the 786 value area low, which is also confluent with the 786 of that same exact fib pull. So if you don't bounce here, the next place you're looking to bounce is that 786 value area low. If you lose this and you start dropping out of the range, well, that's where we look back down to about 52 cents. It's the same, actually. It's literally the same TA that we did on Friday. So that all remains the same. So key zone number one, big level, 72 to 68 cents. If you lose that, you're looking down to the value area low 786 at 62 to 60 cents. So there you go. So hopefully that stop loss sauce helped some people. Yo, shout out to Nitro, said Bitcoin going back to 70K already. Oh, my God. Thanks for going live during the fear, Frankie. Shout out to Cyrus. Hey, we thrive in fear, guys. I mean, hey, I'm not going to lie. You know, sometimes, you know, I have a unique, I talk to Tony about this a lot. I have like a little bit of a unique emotion that I have to fight as a YouTuber. And it is like over the weekend, right? Like I like to stay disciplined and take my profits when I have them. Although my short position here from like 122.7, I think was my entry. My short here, and someone asked me about the stop loss on this trade. For me personally, I had a local stop loss set here. Now, I could have been safe with my invalidation above the all-time high, but I did want to be a little bit careful in case we just cooked to the upside. So my stop loss on this was actually set, I don't remember the exact fib pull, but it was set above, I believe, this high, right, with a potential target of a lower low incoming below $111,000. So this, I'm not saying I'm setting a 1.3% stop loss, right? But the risk to reward here is absolutely beautiful, and it wound up playing out. But for what it's, when I closed this position on the weekend, right? I'm like, well, hey, I hit my final take profit. I didn't have a ton left in the trade, so I closed it in full. I wish I still had it open so I could just show it live. I feel like it has an extra little punch. When I show people, it's like we short at the highs, long at the lows. It's like it's very nice to pull up that actual trade and show you, like, this is really happening. This is really what we do. But I have a little bit of an extra like emotion here, and I try to stick to my plan and take profits when I have them. But you know, it does run through my head. It's like, but if we dump on Monday, right? Like I would really like to show that trade on the live stream. It's like an extra added amount of emotion that I have. So I have to work like double time to keep my discipline and follow my plan, right? And at the end of the day, am I sad about that because I'm not showing on a live stream? No, right? I close it in extra profit. So I absolutely love that. But yeah, it's there, shout out to Tony D. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. He said, if you like Blowfin, we have an active cashback on deposit plus volume bonus. Details in the free Discord announcements. Shout out to Tony D. Maybe I will bring that up before we end, because a lot of times those, if you guys don't know about the cashback on deposits, it's like, is it bonus funds, Tony? Let me know. They essentially give you like, it's kind of like, you can think of it as like demo money. They'll like put demo money in your account, but you get to keep the profit that you make from that demo money. So to say they give you an extra $200, you can look at that as like a free trade to put $200 on, or you could just like add it to your initial position size. You beef up that trade by $200 in margin, but you obviously can't just withdraw. Like you can't just sign up and like withdraw the $200. But the profit you make on it, right, is it's pretty much free money, right, if you make profit. Or it's like a discounted loss or a free loss. So you could risk $200, and if it's that free bonus money, it's a free loss, right? Because it's not your money. Frankie, do you think we hit $4,200 on ETH? Let's take a quick look at Ethereum quickly here, guys. So we looked at this in the premium Discord, and we have this new range that we were looking at. I will give it to you guys as well. 46.31 at the value area high, POC at 4,300, and the value area low at 41.36. What do we see here, guys? This is like one of the simplest explanations or examples of a volume profile trade. And I could even pull this up on the Frankie Candles Essentials by LuxAlgo. Shout out to LuxAlgo. I will just pull this really quickly. This is free. You can just search my name in TradingView and get access to this right away. I will pull that same exact volume profile, and I will actually go ahead and change my settings here to pull the divergences from Market Cipher B, which is very nice. You can go external indicator, and you would select your light blue wave on Market Cipher B because those are your momentum waves. And let's pull it up on something like the 4-hour time frame. What's going on here? Bueller? Okay, doesn't want to populate. All right, it's somewhat populating on the 90-minute. Well, I'll just walk you through this. I'm not going to try to fix this right now. But here's your volume profile. Same volume profile on Frankie Candles Essentials. Actually, if I pull it back up on the time frame that I pulled it on. Why is this happening to me? Why me? God, why me? Well, anyway, I'll just get rid of this. Maybe I will. I think it's gone. There we go. But either way, I'll just explain this on a regular volume profile, right? Deviations above the high, acceptance back into the range, POC is your next likely stop. Lose the POC, value area low is your next likely stop. Deviate below the low. This is not where you want to look for fresh shorts. Unless you're looking for a breakdown, a retest, and then a short, this is not where you want to short. You are too late. You've already gotten the move to the downside. This is why the volume profiles help you so much, because it shows you relatively where the fair value is. It's within the volume profile. This is the fair value. This is overvalued. This is overvalued. This is undervalued. And when you can deviate below these profiles and you can find your entry signals, maybe it's a divergence, maybe it's an SFP, whatever you're looking at, typically the most simple thing to look for here is divergences. And you can see this plays out perfectly here. Deviation above the high. 4-hour bear or 2-hour and 4-hour bearish divergence, higher highs on your momentum waves, lower highs on your momentum waves, higher highs on price. Well, hey, that's a bearish divergence. We can look for some kind of a correction here. Value area high is resistance or support until proven otherwise. You break down, bearishly retest on the value area high. We literally looked at this as it was happening on the live stream earlier with the premium. You get accepted into here. Next likely place for price to go is eventually the point of control. So maybe we get a little bounce here, but with money flow coming out here on the 2-hour, lower highs and lower lows could be anticipated, which would make the next key level to look at $4,300. If you lose that POC, you're going to be looking down to the value area low. These are the local levels I'll be looking at on ETH. And I'll bring up the higher time frames in a second. But let's pull up something like a lower time frame here. You know, maybe you got some bullish divergences down here on a super low time frame just to kind of show you, right? This is undervalued. Inside is fair value. Outside is above is overvalued. Below is undervalued. Yeah, you didn't really get any divergences here. You might have had it like on a micro time frame for a 5-minute bull div, right? There's your higher low. There's your lower low. Looking to get back into the range, flip the value area low to support. Once you hold this as support, the next likely place for price to go is going to be the POC. And technically, if you entered in here on the divergence, your entry would be somewhere down here. Even if you were a little late, you would have been like somewhere over here. But at that point, your goal is to get accepted back into the profile. You slipped it slightly here, but you get back in. POC gets tapped. Once you flip that POC, eventually, you're going to look for that final target to be the value area high. It's not always a clean journey where you just come in, POC, value area low immediately. A lot of times it is confusing and scary, but POC gets tapped, a little correction, back up, back down, you get above it, value area high gets tapped. And it's the same thing here for the move back down, right? You get above that range, you have the bearish divergences, you accept into the value area, POC is going to be the next anticipated big level for me to look at personally. You are getting a little bit of a local bounce. I would assume this is off of some kind of local fib. There it is. You're bouncing off your golden pocket. And I would actually make this a little bit of a zone, POC 786. Now, again, you could hold that POC as support if you ask me. I mean, heck, you could hold the golden pocket technically. But again, based off, why would I say the fill of the range is probable? Well, look at your money flow. 80-minute money flow crossing into the red. 2-hour money flow crossing into the red. What does this mean? Well, hey, but frankly, we're about to print a green dot here on the 2-hour. Well, sure, that can give you a bounce to the upside. But money flow indicates the overall trend, right? The green dots and red dots indicate the ebbs and flows in the market. Red dot, green dot. Red dot, green dot. Red dot, green dot. Red dot, right? So this green dot would indicate an ebb or flow to the upside, but since money flow is trending out here, to keep you on the right side of the trend, you would want to be looking for lower highs and lower lows until proven otherwise, right? It's not that you can't break it and continue up, but this would be the anticipated higher probability, especially when you're within your profile and you already have a high probability of filling this range, at least to the POC, if not the value area low, right? So I would look for something like that, lackluster bounce to the upside, lower highs, lower lows into the POC 786, sitting here between 4,300 and 4,253. If you can't hold that 786, well, what will we look for? Well, since this fib is pulled, to be honest with you, if we lose that 786, it could open the door to crack this low. But because you have your value area low here, you can keep a look. I mean, that would just be the next expected price, right? Lose the 786, POC, go to the value area low. And then maybe you deviate below the low, and then you could potentially look for new longs for move to the POC and the value area high, just like you did here. Right? So this is it could be a new range that we're forming here on Ethereum. So keep this on your chart. If we break down below this value area low at 41.33 and we get a much bigger correction and Bitcoin continues down towards its bigger levels, where would I be looking at on Ethereum? Well, it's going to be the same key level that I gave you guys last week, right? Which is going to be the macro value area high at 35.30. This is a huge level of support. This is really a level that we want to remain above. So there you go. That's what I would look at on Ethereum. Shout out to Rye, says, how do you pull volume profiles? Shout out to Rye. You could check out the beginner series on the YouTube channel. I have tutorials for everything I talk about on these live streams. Go to the beginner series, watch it through. I explain everything that we look at. If you watch through all those, you'll get caught up fully on how to do this yourself and actually how to pull those ranges. And not only that, but also how to trade them. Shout out to Lasers Go Pew Pew. Said, if I made anyone laugh, totally worth it. Shout out to Lasers Go Pew Pew. What did he say? People getting wild in the chat today. Shout out to Aziz. Says, how do you determine the right place to pull a profile? Same thing. Check out the beginner series. I have tutorials on how to pull them. I personally pull them over consolidation, though, right? Over ranges. You can see this range that we were looking at recently where we looked to come down to the point of control before getting the bounce, which we did. You can see here this is pulled from a range all the way back here in 2021, right? I have it pulled over this fair value, right? Why is it pulled over? Why is the pull stop here? Well, we broke down out of the range. When I'm pulling volume profiles, the idea here is to identify the fair value in the market. This is what we trade. We trade the fair value. Right? We wait for it to be expensive, and then we look to short it back into the fair value, right? And I explain this as like an auction, right? If you have, I use the Red Bull example, right? If you go to your gas station, and the Red Bull usually sells between, say, $1 and $2, right? And then you come all the way down here, or you deviate below the law, I'll just say this one right here, and it's selling for 85 cents. Well, it typically trades between $1 and $2, right? So you could buy that 85 cent. This is undervalued, right? You could buy that cheap Red Bull in expectation of coming back into your fair value. If you know it's usually trading, and again, it's not, Ethereum's not always trading between these levels, but within the range, right? You could say, well, hey, this is cheap compared to our relative price action. And based off the magnetic laws of the volume profile, if I could pick up the cheap asset here and then offload it within the profile, expecting it to go back to the fair value, well, why wouldn't I do that, right? I could buy it cheap, sell it expensive. Right? And then if I come up here and they're starting to sell, it's kind of hard to use the Red Bull example because you can't short physical Red Bulls. But if it's trading up here for more expensive than it's typically selling for, maybe they're selling it for $2 up here. Well, if you could short that Red Bull, why not short them back into the fair value? Right? That's why these volume profiles work so well. And this range still is respected. This is stopped on the December 12th, 2021. This is still respected all the way over here. In 2025. POC, perfect respect. Value area high, perfect respect. Value area low, perfect respect. right? Because we have that fair value there. So I'm just trying to identify the fair value in the market. Whether you're on the 5-minute, here's another area of fair value, right? If we deviate below it, well, hey, you might get gravitated back into it, right? So that's, but you can watch the tutorials to get like a full breakdown on how to pull the volume profiles. All right, let's continue on here. Shout out to Dan, said, where do you trade now? Mostly Femex and Blowfin. Hit that like button. Shout out to Alan. Don't forget to smash the like button, guys, if you appreciate the free content, the free education. Most people charge for this, guys. I'm just going to say. We don't ask to pay. Just hit that like button. It's free 99. Shout out to Say It With Me. Sui says, Golden dumped us by accident hitting the sell button when we hit turbulence. When he hit turbulence in his jet, 2.7 Bitcoin bag gone. Shout out to Say It With Me. Sui, yeah. Golden might have been on that jet. Hit a little turbulence. Elbowed the sell button. Oopsie. Shout out to Golden. Shout out to Perry says, Frankie, and at BTC, value area high is support. Let me pull up Bitcoin here real quick. Yes. So, okay. Yeah. So this is where context comes into play, right? I wish, right? And for the most part, right? For the most part, when you have a range like this and a value area high, value area low, like this is where you're looking for like the day trades if you're looking at like a lower time frame. But if you get a breakout of this range, right? And I think I understand your question. When you get the breakout, you might be thinking to yourself, well, hey, if we're down at that value area high, isn't that looked at as like overvalued for acceptance back into the range and a full fill? Sure. But if you have, a breakout like this and you come back down, this is going to be support until proven otherwise, right? So if you enter pretty high above the value area, if you get the breakout, you have to be aware that price can do something like that, right? So the value area high is going to be support until proven otherwise, which is why that value area high that we brought up is such a key level, right? Because it's like, well, hey, if we look at this from a high time frame perspective, like pull it up on the daily, right? Fair value, expensive, cheap, expensive, right? If this is really going to be a breakout, it's definitely an area that you want to look at for support. But it's super key because if you get accepted back in, well, then what do you have? You have an overvalued asset with bearish confirmations, and if you get accepted into this range, you're going to come back down to the fairest value, which is going to be the point of control of the range. This is where this is where most of the trading volume within the profiles come in, right? 70% of the trading volume is within the actual range. So that's why this is key, right? So it might be a little confusing because it's like, well, hey, if you get above, that's bearish for a move back into the range. Yes, but you do have to be aware of potential higher lows and higher highs based off this confluence on the Fibonacci retracement. If you get stuck underneath here, that's why I say if you get stuck here, definitely going to be bearish. That's where you'll see, like, in hindsight, you'll look at this and say, well, hey, that is a deviation above the high, daily bearish divergence, right? Definitely could send you back down through that range. But if you hold it as support, right, you're not always, right, and take this for example, right? I'll pull up real life examples, right, to make it as easy to understand as possible. When we look at this range, right, we didn't really push down to the true value area low. We actually kind of held the structural supports here. But let's say price got a little bit of a deeper retracement here and pushed into that value area high. Well, if we had those bullish divergences and we started hitting into some key Fibonacci levels, which actually pull to the low, right, from the low to the high. Well, what do you have here? You have golden pocket, value area high confluence, right? So if you put massive bullish divergences in here on the daily with money flow coming up, well, sure, you don't want to lose this level. And when we looked at this, this was kind of the big level of resistance that we didn't support that we didn't want to lose, because if you lose it, you're probably going back down to the low. But there's always an opportunity that when you get the breakouts, right, you could just come back down to retest that structure before continuing up. So hopefully that answers your question. I don't even know if that was your question, but hopefully it'll help somebody out there. So there you go. All right, let's continue on. Shout out to Cliff, said, can we do stacks? Yeah, we could take a look at stacks. Why is there no alt season this cycle? Thought they would move harder looking at BTC. Yeah, shout out to Tim Candles fan. Shout out to you, man. I've explained like a bunch of times. I'm gonna go like fully into it. I've explained a bunch of times why I think alt season has been kind of muted, but it doesn't mean that there is guaranteed no alt season this cycle. Keep that in mind. It does not guarantee there is no alt season. We just need the macroeconomic situation to improve, right? We need the rate cuts, and again, even then, you can get the cool off, right, on the rate cuts, right? Some people see that, a lot of people see that as a recession signal, but that is usually what the Fed needs to, they cut the rates and then they start QE, and that's what pumps the markets. So it could still be a lot of turbulence, and again, we just haven't really had that macroeconomic environment. We've been keeping an eye on the RTY, which is the Russell 2000, pretty much the altcoin market for stocks, right? This tracks the lower market cap stocks. We've broken above this 786, right? So it's not like we're back down below that. I personally wouldn't really like to get back down below this value area high again. This would be kind of bearish in my opinion, right? But, if we come back down here and hold this as support, right, well, that could be good for a bigger breakout. But we're just going to let things develop here, right? Like there's only so much you can do with the information that you're given. But, this is usually that first indication that, hey, this thing breaks out. This is typically what you see for everything else to pump, right? Stocks pump, crypto pumps, and especially for altcoins. And what do we have? We hadn't really gotten a good breakout of this, right? We got the breakout of the value area high when? November 2024. Well, what was happening in November of 2024? I'll just use XRP as an example because it's an exaggerated example. What was happening? Massive moves up. What was happening to the RTY? We were breaking out of the value area. We flipped it to support, came back up, and then we just went out for that bigger dump. But we are now back above this level, right? And now this is the 786 retracement, which remaining above this level could indicate that the trend could continue to crack these highs. If that happens, it'll very likely translate into altcoins. It's not just like me saying, I think that's going to happen, right? We're just looking at history. This is typically what happens, not even just here, but in the past as well. So just to kind of show you this is not just like astrology for crypto bros, right? This is historic research. We're scientists, guys. We're scientists. Right, you can see my cursor on both of these charts. I'll pull up the weekly on both of them. Right, where's that breakout happen? Breakout happens right here. What happens to XRP? Well, if we get another breakout here, and what happened before we got the bigger breakout? We retested the value area high before continuing up for the bigger move, right? Well, if we do something similar here, hey, could it see the same thing happen? Not only for XRP, but for other altcoins as well, especially if we finally have the rate cuts come in and all that macroeconomic situation kind of lines up. So yeah, we didn't have that back here, right? We had the breakout, but there was no rate cut or anything like that. Things have changed. So yeah, there you go. All right. Let's take a look at STX. And we will take a look. I'll take a look at XRP and Solana as well. Shout out to Infinite Team TA. He said, listen to this man. Shout out to Infinite Team. Let's go, baby. All right, let's take a quick look at STX. So I don't think I have an STX chart. If I do, it'll be over here. What is this? That's Binance. Let me see the Bybit chart. Okay, here we are. Okay, so STX, I mean, you're ranging, right? I know this doesn't feel like it, right? But there's your low. Push to the POC, overvalued, back in, back to the POC, back to the low, deviate below the low, back above the POC, into the value area high, back to the POC. Right? You're starting to see patterns here, right? This is why, like, very simple. If you pull the right volume profile, longs at the lows, shorts at the highs. Longs at the lows, shorts at the highs. So I would say right now, based off the volume profile, a very clear roadmap for price. You got into the low, to the high. You've now tapped the POC. Maybe you get a little turbulence here, but if you lose this POC decisively, the next level to look at is the value area low, sitting at 55 cents. If we pull this local fib, you also have, I'm going to take the golden pocket off because you already ripped through the golden pocket, so that's irrelevant for me. POC, 786. All right, so lose that 786 / POC, right? Pretty much the same level. Value area low be anticipated. Why do I say that? Well, look at this. POC, lose the POC, value area low. POC, well, POC, value area low, but then you lose the POC again, value area low, right? So that would be the next key level that I would look at. For STX, 55 cents at the value area low is going to be key. Let me just grab that box and actually pull this up on like a 5-hour real quick. Just readjust this so it's a little more perfect there. So yeah, 55 cents. That would be the next anticipated place for price. You know, maybe you get a bounce off the 786, but look at your money flow. 6-hour money flow coming into the red, 8-hour money flow coming into the red, right? Or looking for the crossover into the red. So I would say any bounce here would have to be viewed pretty much as lower highs and lower lows until proven otherwise. So I would say filling this range is definitely a probability, or a possibility, I should say. Right? Money flow comes into the green after bouncing off the value area low, flipping the, like it's the same thing here, right? You get above the POC, flip the value area, POC. Well, money flow is coming up. You look for the continuation up towards the high, not just based off your volume profile, right? But also based off your money flow, right? Low, POC, high. That's typically what you see. When you get above the low, the next likely place for price to go is the POC. Flip the POC, the next likely place for price to go is the value area high. Money flow agreed with that. Now, we have the rejection from the high back down to the POC. You faked out into the, or you faked out back into the green here, but overall, money flow is still coming out, right? So I would say the open door to the value area low is there. 55 cents. That's what I would look at on STX. Let's take a look at the weekly real quick. Yeah, nothing to really take away from there. Let's take a look at the daily. Daily money flow coming out as well, so that's worth noting. But yeah, these would be the key levels. Value area low, 55 cents. POC at 63 cents. And then the value area high at 92 cents. I really wouldn't be looking for much bigger moves on this. I would say once you break out of this value area, you have pretty low volume here. So you could get a potential flip of support here for a fast move back up. And then once you flip this value area low, well, you just repeat the process. Flip the value area low, POC is next. Flip the POC, value area high is next. If it's in line with your higher time frame money flow. So if you want this move here, what you would want to see is like time frames like the weekly crossing into the green, which is getting close, right? It is trending up here, as you can see. All right, so that next green dot might be able to drag you into the green for a potential continuation up. And if you're looking for a blueprint on what price might look like on the way up, you would look at your volume profiles. So there you go. Let's see. Thanks, bro, for stack. Shout out to Cliff. No problemo. Let's take a quick look at Solana. Oh, bro, I'm tripping right now. I'm wondering why it's so early and why it feels like I've been live for so long. We went live early tonight. That's why. Like, dang, why is my voice starting to hurt? Only at 7 o'clock. I'm not even screaming that loud. All right, let's take a look here at Solana. So Solana up here. Let's see. So yeah, so we did take the highs here. We had this level. Will it break, right? We took it on the 23rd. So we had this level, right? Why do we look to potentially break this high? And good Lord, guys, I don't know if Solana is ever going to hit this dang POC. Right, I will say this, and again, this just goes to show that nothing is 100% in trading, right? And I mean, not even that it's, you know, not that it's not helpful, right? I mean, heck, you missed it by like $2, right? But the idea here is get above the low. Anytime you're above this value area low, which you did get a nice pop to the upside here, the next likely place for price to go is towards that PLC. This PLC is the strongest magnet within the profile. You barely front ran it, but the reason I bring this up is because we have our golden pocket pulled from the low to the high. This gives us the golden pocket. What does that mean? Well, that means that if we're going to look for a low, a high, a higher low, and a higher high, which we have now gotten, we've been waiting for this for quite some time. It took some time, but we did get it. I got the notification, and I was like, there's the Solana break. But tap the golden pocket. This is an area to potentially put in a higher low. What does that mean? That means your target. Let's assume you long here. Your final target for that long position could be a break of structure to the upside, right? So you could target this high. And what do you get, right? You get the low, the higher low. Once you get back into this volume profile, you're anticipating a push up towards that PLC, and you're looking for the break of structure to the upside, and there you are, right? I had this will it break on here for a reason, right? Because it was very high probability it would happen, and when it happened, I want to show it, right? Because down here, we talked about, well, hey, you could look for a break of structure to the upside, and it would call for a break of this high, where we label this, will it break? And there it is, just playing out, right? Not because I'm a wizard, not because I have these secret indicators that no one has, or the secret crystal ball. Maybe we have a crystal ball, maybe we don't. Don't investigate it. But, it's because of what we look at here. Not only do we teach this every day, but we do this TA live. I let you guys know what we think is going to happen here, right? And there's the TA playing out, right? The charts are the truth. So there you go. As of right now, you're back down to the value area low now. So this is super turbulent. But you got that ride almost to your point of control. When you get that close to the POC and you front run it, it makes me wonder, like maybe you can readjust the profile. Like maybe if you pulled it to this low, it doesn't really move the POC though. So I would still say his 216.90 level is still a big level. And it's also your macro golden pocket retracement. But right now, locally, I would say right now, value area low at 183.91 is a huge level of support. And now that we've bounced off this top of the golden pocket / daily MPOC, so you also had confluence down there as well. But what I would now look at is the bottom of the golden pocket into your next daily MPOC. So I'm going to take the top of this golden pocket off. I'm going to take this daily MPOC and hide it. Or I'm actually I'll just hide it for now, but I'm going to label it as tapped because it is no longer naked. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a tapped naked point of control. It would be a tapped point of control. But the next key level to look at here locally for me personally would be the bottom of the golden pocket into this daily MPOC sitting between 174.76 and 122.80. And you know what I could do here? Let me pull up some liquidity heat maps here. Let me see if I can pull this up on Solana real quick. See if we can find some... see if we can find some liquidity. Because if we have liquidity sitting below this low into this key level of support, I might be interested in a bounce there. And let's take a look. What is this low? This 175.71. Yeah, I mean, you really can't make this up, guys. You can't make it up. So we do have liquidity sitting down there on Solana. Let me just double check this. Sol USD perpetual on Bybit. So yeah, I mean, it's funny how you could kind of spot that liquidity before you even see it on the heat map, right? You have all these wicks here, right? Another retracement. You're getting a lot of people long in this stuff. So you got a lot of that liquidity sitting down here, leading to about 170.71. Yeah, so I would say, listen, if you could come down here, you do have the liquidity, right? If we could lose this value area, could look for a potential, maybe like a day trade or a scalp long. I mean, your money flow is coming out here on the 80-minute at least, right? So you do have to be careful of lower highs and lower lows to come. But this would definitely be an area where I'd be interested in a bounce. And I'll put something here, and we'll just go bounce after SFP. Right? Just so we have reference next time we look at it. If we do get the bounce or don't get the bounce, we know what we're looking at. So I would say, like, yeah, if you can come in here and flush out some of that liquidity, which technically leads down to, just under this daily MPOC, something like this wouldn't be the worst. And then if you could reclaim the value area low, that would be a sign that you could maybe continue up towards that point of control for a second attempt, or third attempt, I'm sorry. But until then, right, if you do get that set up, right, I would be looking at this as a potential major level to protect yourself against, right? Because if you put in a lower high and a lower low, this is going to be major resistance on the way back up. So this would be the next key level I would look at on Solana. If we break down below that, very simple. 786 value area low, which is also in line with a macro anchored VWAP, which will very likely be confluent if we do continue down. This will trend up over time. So these are the two biggest levels to look at on Solana in my personal opinion. And based off money flow, lower highs and lower lows could be the case, right? So maybe you get a bounce off the value area low, lower high, lower low, and then you can look for the bounce there and then reassess your money flow to see if you should be looking for lower highs or a reclaim for a move back up. Either way, right, if you could at least get a move up to the value area high, if I were to trade this, right, it gives me plenty of room. Right, let's just say you get in, you say get in here, right? It gives you plenty of room, right? A nice little 4% move to the upside to get profits locked in, stop loss to break even. That way, if you do wind up doing something like that, you can get stopped at break even. But you could also keep the door open in case you do reclaim and get the bigger move up. So there you go. Low key, a freebie for the live stream here. That's what I'd be looking at. And then if you lose it, 786 at about $167 is the next big key level. Hopefully that anchored VWAP can come up for beautiful confluence. Right. Let's see. Shout out to F Moss. Thank you for the super chat, bro. Said, can you please chart Turbo for long position start and chart TA? Shout out to F Moss. I will try to take a look at Turbo. I appreciate the super chat. No need to super chat the altcoins, guys. Please do not super chat the altcoins. We will take them from the free chat. It's just sometimes we don't have time to look at every altcoin. And if everybody starts super chatting, it's like, hey, super chat, I didn't get my altcoin. But I will take a look at Turbo, and I'll give you my 2 cents or maybe even 3 cents on that. Shout out to K Diggity in the chat, Phoebe's boyfriend. Shout out to K Diggity. Wick 589 and Wick's wife 589 in the chat, and Jessica, welcome in. Yo, shout out to Eugene, said, what the F? Biddy dumping again. What the heck, man? What the heck? But again, watch that 108 to 107K zone. All right, let's continue on. Laser says, I swear my baby oil idea solely called Diddy is our gold mine. Shout out to Lasers Go Pew Pew. I'm not going to say shout out to that rapper guy. Okay, so let's continue on here. We took a look at Solana, took a look at Ethereum, took a look at Cardano. Let's take a quick look at XRP, which is, let's take a look at our local volume profile. Absolutely. Shout out to anybody who's been watching the streams. Major resistance on XRP. And I'm not going to lie, guys. I personally wanted to short this and literally was looking at the chart as I had alert set here. Pushed up. I don't even know what I was doing. I think I was eating. Like, took a bite of my food. And instant rejection to the downside, like super fast rejection. I was interested in shorts here. We talked about this on the live stream. Major zone of support, resistance that I will be looking for shorts. But at that point, it was like, I was like, oh man, I was like, this thing dumped so fast. I got to wait. And it just never really gave me a decent retracement. But resistance is resistancing here into the daily / daily MPOC. We also had the point of control, the golden pocket, weekly, and anchored VWAP above. I would still say there's a plethora of resistance up here below, above the POC. But we've tapped out the daily and the daily MPOC and gotten the rejection to the downside, and we are now losing this volume profile. What does this mean for XRP? Are we going to zero? Well, as you guys know, key levels remain the same on Ethereum, or on XRP. I'm not going to like beat this dead horse. Inability to hold this anchored VWAP. You have the golden pocket, which did technically hold for a second time. But oftentimes, guys, if you're looking for a low, a high, a higher low, and a higher high, that first tap on the golden pocket is the one that gives it to you. I don't expect these to be massive support on the second tap. It gave us you a little bit of support, but it was really just into resistance for another dump. I would expect this to behave the same if we come back down to it again. Is it impossible to bounce there? No. But for the most part, because this is already tapped, I would anticipate losing this and coming down to the bigger key level of support between 250 and 260, which remains exactly the same as what we've been looking at for weeks on XRP, even before we got the pullback, right? We were saying, well, hey, if we got the breakout and we're looking for a range retest, where would that likely happen? It's probably going to happen right here, all right? So it's not until we lose this level where I would anticipate, if we lose this, I'll anticipate potential POC visit or the 786 at 228 or 230. But this is your next big key level on XRP. Still remains the same, 250 to 260. Like I said, you know, you got the bounce off the golden pocket, but very rarely is it a strong higher low when you've already gotten the bounce from there. So I don't want to make it sound impossible to bounce from here, but I don't expect it, right? I would more anticipate a loss and a push into this bigger level. We'll see if we get it. Other than that, not too much to update. Money flow, kind of flat on the daily, not really coming out super aggressively, but it does look like it might start trending out. 16-hour, come on. 16-hour money flow in the red. Let's check the 2-day. 2-day money flow coming out as well. So, yeah, any bounces at this point based off the lower time frame money flow would have to be lower highs and lower lows. 4-hour money flow in the red. Let's check the 2-hour money flow tanking. So, yeah, I would be careful about any bounces here until we come into this bigger key level of support between 250 and 260. All right, so that's XRP. Let's take a quick look at Turbo for our boy. I forget who said it. FMOS. Let's take a look. Do I have a Turbo chart? There it is. Haven't looked at Turbo in quite some time. Good Lord. Hang on one sec. Look at that 786 tap. Okay, yeah, so we looked at this not too long ago. So golden pocket, right? I could take this off now because we've already gotten the push into the POC golden pocket. We got the bounce, ended in a lower high and a lower low, right? So we can now take this off, delete the golden pocket. And there's the bottom of that zone, guys. 786. I personally, like, could you bounce here? Yes. I mean, are you bouncing here? Yes. Like, look at that tap on the golden pocket for the bounce. But to be quite honest with you, I in a lot of these cases, I even here for turbo, I prefer the golden pocket. Why? Well, because it allows you to hold on top of your POC. Like, I would say there's a higher probability of a high, low, or I'm sorry, low, high, higher, low, higher, high if you're holding that POC. It's not that you can't bounce off the 786. I mean, hey, we are bouncing to some capacity, but at this point, right, if you get a bounce off this POC, you're coming directly into your bounce off the 786, you're coming directly into your point of control, which is key resistance. That paired with your money flow coming into the red makes me suspicious of just filling this range in full. We've already gotten the rotation above the value area low, flipped it to support. At this point, the POC is the next likely place for price to go. You get it. You flip the POC. Once you do that, next likely place for price to go is the value area high. Deviate above, back in, POC. Sure, you get the bounce off the POC, but at the end of the day, you can look for that full fill of the range. Value area low sits at 0.003438. I hate reading these little numbers. I'm just going to say 343.58 is that value area low. Lose that 786, that is the next level to look at, in my own personal opinion. And this is the full golden pocket 786 from the low to the high. So if you're hoping for a higher low here and a higher high to crack structure to the upside here into your value area low, this is the level that it has to happen at. Lose this, value area low is next. And potentially a break of structure to the downside here at 289.73. Which brings you to another big key level of support down here. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But right now, this is the volume profile we'll look at. And yeah, I mean, that's your last level to bounce off of. If you can't quickly get a bounce here and reclaim the POC to shoot back out, which I would say is the lower probability at this point, based off the volume profile, based off your money flow coming into the red, 8-hour money flow cracking back into the red as well. One thing you can point out here is you do have bullish divergences, but money flow is somewhat choppy here. So, yeah, I mean, it's not that this is where you'd look for the higher low for the higher high, but you'd have to treat this very carefully, right? If you bounce here into the POC, I would be locking in profits, move my stop loss to break even, and then maybe you could cook back up through the profile, but I'd be careful with this money flow coming out at this point. So there you go. Next big level I'd look at is the value area low. So shout out to FMOS. Hopefully that helps you out. We can take a look at this from a weekly perspective. Yeah, nothing really to take away. Yeah, 5-day money flow in the red, 4-day money flow in the red. 3-day money flow, like, still attempting to trend up here. So, yeah, I mean, if you can't hold this value area low, I'd look for, this move down here. But, again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Key support down below is going to be that value area low. Hopefully, this can just continue to kind of trend to the upside as you get a little bit of that turbulence before a bigger breakout to come with the rate cuts and all that good stuff. So, there you go. All right, let me pull chat back up here real quick. Doge, yeah, we could take a look at Dogecoin. Shout out to Diaz, says thanks for the great TA. Frankie, gotta go spend time with the family. Peace. Shout out to Diaz. Thank you for being here, bro. We appreciate you. Yo, chat crazy sometimes. Shout out to Kalia in the chat, said weekly money flow is trash on Turbo. I don't have any money flow here on Turbo. Might be on I'd be able to look at something with a little more price history. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is actually, we've looked at this before. This money flow is much different. Now, I don't personally on altcoins view the weekly money flow the same as I do on Bitcoin. As you guys know, on Bitcoin, the weekly money flow has indicated the bear market every cycle, right? I mark this out constantly. It's indicated that the top is in, and it's indicated the bear market is on the way, right? All the way back here, right? We obviously get a pretty big drop to the downside, but money flow is aggressively tanking out here, crosses into the red, big drop down into the bear market. Same thing here. We get the big drop, consolidation, kind of an insane descending triangle. Money flow crosses over. Huge sign that you're going to get a big drop down. 2021, same thing. I went over this in the beginning of the stream. Big drop down, bearish consolidation, lower high, money flow crosses over. Massive bear market, right? This is, and then same thing with the crossovers into the green, right? Crossover into the green indicates that the bottom is in. Crossover into the green right here. The bottom is in at, 3K. Sure, you get a big scare, but it doesn't bring you back down to 3K. Bottom is in, bull market's on the way. Same thing every single time. Weekly money flow crossover into the green. Bottom is in, massive bull market, right? But I don't view this exactly the same for things like altcoins, just because the money flow oscillates a lot faster on altcoins. Is it a bullish sign? Absolutely not. That money flow is coming into the red on turbo, so don't get it twisted. It's definitely not a bullish sign, but it doesn't necessarily indicate that it's going to go down forever. But it is definitely a bearish sign, right? Massive money flow wave, massive push to the upside, crossover into the red. I mean, high, low, lower high. Potentially looking for that lower low, especially if that 786 doesn't hold, opens up the door to crack structure to the downside there. And the money flow is in line with that. So, yeah, I would say, now that I can see this, yes, money flow is trash on the weekly for turbo. Who said that? Who said it? I forget. Shout out to whoever said that, though. Jay Violet said he definitely read that. I love how the chat says crazy stuff, and I always try to search for it. I don't like to spend too much time searching for the random stuff. Oh, they're talking about clothes falling? Good Lord. Anyway, continuing on. Shout out to Daniel says, Frankie, now we have a red dot on weekly money flow for BTC. Does it confirm lower dumps? I assume you mean the weekly red dot on Bitcoin right here. This is not red money flow. This is a red dot. For sure, it could indicate more downside. Let me check the Heikinashi candles, make sure. Yeah, no money flow crossing into the red. That is a huge sign of weakness if we get a money flow crossover into the red. But the red dot would indicate more downside. We talked about that last week, right? Because you have your higher highs on your price action, your lower highs on your momentum waves, right? And there's your bearish divergence. You confirmed it with the red dot here, which is part of the reason why we anticipated this continuation down. It's part of the reason why I shorted the all-time high. And then we got a green dot and then an instant red dot, right? So you just kind of still have continued bearish divergence here, which could easily point towards more dump, for sure. Which is why we're keeping an eye on that $108,000 level. Come on, baby. Come on. Hold that. Hold that, Bitcoin. Come on. Shout out to Baby Genius. Said, you're a lifesaver, Frankie. Appreciate you today, bro. Thoughts on Pepe? Thoughts on Pepe, Pengu, or Bonk for a meme op? We could take a look at, let's take a look at Pengu. How's Pengu holding up here? Yeah, Pengu, I say this every time we look at this chart. It's like Pengu with the recovery of a lifetime here. I mean, this thing was like, went to zero pretty much with a massive full recovery, which is insane. And you are approaching your value area here. So, this is a, let me just pull this volume profile, or pull this, let me just pull this range real quick. Just clean this up a bit. All right. So as you can see, no real surprise here, but this little volume profile ending in January winds up holding up perfectly, right? Like this, if this is not your sign to start watching the tutorial videos on the channel and learn how to use these volume profiles again, flip the low, POC is next. Remain above the low, flip the POC, value area high is next. Deviation above the high, acceptance back into the range, POC next. Bounce off the POC for another value area high retest, can't break out, POC is next. Lose the POC, value area low. Bounced off the value area low, front ran the POC, didn't make it all the way up there, which is honestly a pretty rare situation, right? Oftentimes you will get the full fill. And I would say, honestly, the thought process of potentially coming back up to the high is not invalidated until you lose the value area low. But, I mean, you are approaching this key level of support. Let me pull this fib real quick. Yeah, I mean, you're hoping you got to hold the 786. At this point, I would say the value area low is likely. Value area low sitting here at about 0.028 cents. Biggest key level. Lose this, it's kind of hard, right? Because there's not a lot of structure to look at here. We have this area of balance, which helps you identify what price will do up here, which is beautiful. Worked out perfectly. But under here, there's not much, right? Like very fast move down could lead to very fast moves up can lead to very fast moves down, because the next significant area of structure is kind of sitting over here, right? So I could pull this up just for the fun of it. I don't know if you're going to get a move all the way back down here, but I would argue that like this is like the next significant support level. Yeah, I mean, this sits all the way down at 1.5 cents about. Again, it's hard for me to say that you're definitely going to get that move down. You do have this other tiny little consolidation here. I'm not really a huge fan of like looking at this as a major zone, but this would be some kind of local support. Could see if I could find some kind of confluence here. I wouldn't even really look at this as value area high, POC value area low. Just look at this as kind of like a level. Let's pull it from the impulse to the high. Yeah, I mean, you could look for a potential. If you deviate below this volume profile, you have your golden pocket lining up with this value area high. And then the 786 is after you lose that. So I would say like, yeah, but 0.026 to 0.0257, that'd be a big level to look at. Lose that, 786. Like these would still be areas where you can look for continuations of the trend. Try to pull up some MPOCs here as well. Yeah, see, like the daily MPOCs don't really come in until you get back down to this bigger zone, which I would like better anyway because these are stronger levels. But you do have a weekly level, weekly MPOC here, so I'll mark that out. And then check the monthly as well. No monthly MPOC. You do have a monthly MPOC down here, which is nice and confluent with the value area high. So I would say levels to look at. Pull this to the low. So now we have nice confluence here. So pulled from your low, high, higher, low. Big swing low to pull fib from here. So I would say these are like really significant levels of support on Pengu. 786, value area high, monthly MPOC. That's huge. Now you also have your value area low, golden pocket, weekly MPOC sitting here. So I would look between 0.0234, 0.0213. I hate reading these numbers, but that would be big level number one, right? If you're not going to hold this value area low, which again, based off your money flow on the 12-hour, you're already continuing your lower high structure, high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, potential lower low. You lose this range. This would be the first major macro level of support, in my opinion. Weekly MPOC, golden pocket, and then your local value area low is confluent with that as well. If you lose that golden pocket, well, where are you going to look after that, right? You're probably going to look down towards the 786, which is confluent with your monthly MPOC and your value area high. These are definitely the two biggest levels I would look at, and you can screenshot right here if you want those actual numerical levels. So there you go. That's what I'd look at on Pengu. But again, money flow coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if that continues down a bit. So there you go. There's Pengu. We took a look at XRP, Cardano. We took a look at a ton of altcoins. Shout out to Eugene Sky says, Link did a huge unlinking. Shout out to Eugene Sky. Is Link like mega dumping, or is it just following along with everything else? Oh, baby. Look at her go. Well, I mean, I'll just take this from like a very basic standpoint. I'm not going to do full TA here, but, you know, bearish divergences on the daily, even here on the lower time frames, like just continued higher highs with lower highs on momentum. That is a bearish divergence. Why is price coming up if momentum is leaving? Money flow also starting to trend to the downside here. So again, obviously, most things are going to follow each other, right? If Ethereum dumps, everything else is going to dump as far as altcoins go. And if Bitcoin dumps, Ethereum's probably going to go as well. So on Bitcoin, guys, again, just keep an eye on that $108,000 golden pocket. We'll see. Can we hold the local level here on our daily MPOC value area high between 110 or 111 and 109.8 or 110K? Maybe. If you can't hold this, though, guys, if you can't hold this, I'm looking down here. Biggest level on the chart between $108,000 and $107,000 for Bitcoin. We do not want to lose that level, but until then, we will be looking for those long positions, even if they are going to be for lackluster retracements, lower highs and lower lows. We'll be looking for the longs. We'll be looking for the shorts in the premium Discord. But with all that being said, guys, that's all the time I got for today's live stream. I totally forgot we started early today. We've been live for over 2 hours at this point, and my voice is starting to get kind of raspy here. So thank you guys for tuning in. Smash that like button on your way out, and pray, guys. Pray we do not lose that $108,000 level for Bitcoin. If we do, it's going to be a big sign of weakness for me, and it's probably not looking very good. Doesn't mean bear market, but we're probably likely to see more downside inside that macro volume profile. If you just tuned in, scrub to the beginning of the stream. You get all the sauce, not only on Bitcoin, but Ethereum and a bunch of other altcoins. That's all the time I got for today's live stream. Shout out to New Earth Guardian. Shout out to Johnny December. Shout out to Brillo. Shout out to Giga Longbottom. Lasers Go Pew Pew. Wick589 and his wife, Wick Fine89. Jessica, all the mods. That's all I got. Hasta pasta. See you tomorrow. Same place, same time. You know the rest. Hasta pasta. Frank Candles out. Bing bong!
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command, like, yeah, you about to see me on demand, like, you know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't ever going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah, on the road, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor.